Less than 30 seconds after the life-renewing water went down my throat, the muscles that had been tense all night began to warm. This was nothing like the relief ordinary drinking water brought. The burning pain in my chest was easing, the nearly depleted strength in my limbs was returning, and even the circulation of my Tianyuan art had grown smoother. I glanced down at the standard-issue canteen in my hand. Noticed it. Feng Yin said with a smile. That's life-renewing water. It's the newest generation of martial supplements. It hasn't entered mass production yet, and even here at the university, you have to exchange credits for it. No wonder it worked so quickly. Thank you. This came at exactly the right time. Starfield Martial University's resources had once again overturned my expectations. In the past, I had to deliberate for ages just to save one bottle of ordinary recovery medicine. Here, even the water supplied in a training area could rapidly restore physical strength. The life-renewing water broke some of the distance between Feng Yin and me. He sat down beside me, first asking several questions about how I generated force with variable frequency step, then steering the conversation toward abilities. Sugu, would you mind telling me your ability rating? You don't have to reveal what it actually does. It doesn't have one, I answered honestly. When I awakened in high school, it was judged to be an unranked, trash-tier ability. That's why I was assigned to the academic track. I almost didn't even qualify for the martial entrance exam. Feng Yin stared at me for 2 seconds, as if trying to determine whether I was joking. An ability rating doesn't represent everything a martial artist is capable of, he said. With your combat techniques and physical conditioning, there won't be many freshmen who can contend with you for the top 2 spots. He said the top 2, but his tone made it obvious that he had reserved the other spot for himself. I didn't call him out on it. I merely handed back the water I hadn't finished. Either way, thank you. Feng Yin reached for the outside of the canteen. The instant contact was made. His 5 fingers clenched and all the color drained from his face. The next second, it was as though a mountain had crashed into him head-on. His knees slammed heavily into the ground, and only by bracing himself with his other hand did he keep from collapsing flat on his face. Feng Yin. I had barely taken a step forward when he jerked his head up and shouted, "Don't touch me." I stopped and put some distance between us. As soon as contact was broken, the abnormal pressure bearing down on him vanished. Feng Yin remained on his knees, panting rapidly, his forehead and back soaked in cold sweat. More than 10 seconds passed before he managed to stand. When I touched the canteen, the gravitational field around you spread through the point of contact. He stared at my wrists. The gravity you're bearing is wrong. It absolutely isn't just the 30-fold gravity on this level. I rolled up my sleeves. The gravity cuffs had originally been set to 5-fold gravity, but the display now read 20. Added to the tower's baseline gravity of 30 times normal, that made exactly 50-fold gravity. Added together, the numbers formed only a simple statement. The effect on the body was another matter entirely. 50 times my body weight drove my bones deeper into their joints, and every beat of my heart had to work harder to send blood to my brain. I had already adapted to the baseline 30-fold gravity, yet the additional 20-fold pressure still caused tiny shifts in my internal organs whenever I turned. If Feng Yin hadn't let go in time, the gravity transmitted through the canteen would have dragged him into a 50-fold environment without warning. His knees might already have shattered. That also explained the load curve on my terminal, which had kept rising in distinct steps. There really isn't any rule requiring students to wear gravity cuffs when entering the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower. I asked. Of course not. Feng Yan's voice turned cold. Adding a set of cuffs that can increase their own setting and can't be unlocked in an emergency on top of a high-gravity zone isn't a safety regulation. It's murder. I recorded the display, the load curve, and the serial numbers, then sealed those files together with the time Qian Hao and Li Qiu had handed me the cuffs and the footage from the entrance. This was no longer a suspicion. The cuffs had automatically risen from 5-fold to 20-fold gravity, and Feng Yin had personally experienced the gravity spreading through contact. The evidence was complete enough. As for whoever had ordered Qian Hao and Li Qiu to do it, I would have an answer after leaving the tower. When Feng Yin saw that I was still reviewing the records, he instinctively retreated another half-step. That brief contact had clearly left a shadow over him. He wasn't even willing to take the canteen back. "Sorry," I said. "You gave me the water out of kindness, and those things nearly hurt you. Don't apologize yet. Just stay 3 feet away from me from now on." He spoke lightly, but his breathing had yet to fully stabilize. I had nothing on me that could compensate him. After thinking it over, all I could do was point toward the place where he had been training. The experience I gained through breathing did not conjure answers from nothing. I could identify the hitch in Feng Yan's movement only because I had just watched him repeat the same sequence and had already mastered many similar movement and palm techniques. Without those materials to work from, even the strongest ability couldn't let me remotely guess the principles of a combat technique I had never seen. I had to remember that boundary. Mistaking rapid growth for omniscience was the easiest way to get myself killed. Whenever your palm technique shifts to generating force through your left leg, there's a momentary hitch, right? Wariness instantly entered Feng Yan's eyes. The next time you reach that movement, lower your center of gravity by about an inch in advance. If it doesn't work, I'll apologize again. He clearly disliked being instructed by someone his own age, but he returned to the training area and performed the sequence again from the beginning. As he transitioned from the third palm strike to the fourth, he followed my suggestion and lowered his center of gravity. The previously interrupted soul power immediately crossed the node in his left leg, linking the entire sequence in a single flow. Its speed also increased noticeably. Feng Yan stopped where he was. Only after checking it twice did he turn to look at me. Have you practiced this combat technique before? No. Once you've seen enough techniques, their force generation structures always have something in common. And exactly how many is enough? I couldn't give him an accurate number, so I merely smiled. Feng Yan fell silent for a moment, then cupped one fist in the other hand toward me again. Even the way he addressed me changed. Brother Su, I take back what I said. It isn't that hardly anyone among this year's freshmen can compete with you for the top two. At this point, my ability is probably the only thing I have that might still be a little stronger than yours. Once he confirmed that the cuffs had risen to 20-fold gravity, Feng Yan's first reaction was to help me remove them. For the moment, I refused. 50-fold gravity was indeed damaging my body, but the heart rate, blood oxygen, and organ load readings on my personal terminal had not crossed the withdrawal thresholds I had set. I had already preserved ample evidence of the cuff's malfunction. As long as I remained within the safe range, continuing to train would magnify every flaw in my movements. Are you sure? Feng Yan frowned. If you keep going, the benefits might not outweigh the injuries. The moment my blood oxygen drops below the red line or my heart rhythm becomes irregular, I'll stop. I'm not trying to prove anything by enduring it. He didn't try to persuade me again. He placed the life-renewing water 3 feet away, then returned to his training. Over the next several hours, I read the A-rank combat techniques stored on catalog level 50 while testing new paths inside my own body. Whenever Feng Yan encountered a sticking point, he would try several times on his own. Only when he truly couldn't resolve it would he ask me. I didn't dissect his entire technique for him. I only pointed out the single critical node obstructing the movement and left him to complete the rest himself. The results were even better that way. By the time the tower clock entered the 10th hour, he had mastered one more A-rank combat technique than originally planned. Feng Yan had also reached his limit. The baseline 30-fold gravity had made his steps visibly heavier, and his soul power could no longer recover as quickly as he was expending it. After putting away the registered original manuals, he said, "I'll wait for you in a lower gravity zone. If you cross the terminal's red line and still refuse to come down, I'll come up here and drag you out." All right. After he left, catalog level 50 fell completely silent. I returned my attention to the pages and the training area. With every completed breath, new understanding followed the technique's pathways and sank into my body. Beyond pulse-cutting method, variable frequency step, and Sage's self-guiding hand, more unarmed, polearm, and defensive techniques began connecting to the existing branches of my Tianyuan art. The cuffs remained at 20-fold gravity and did not increase again. The true ordeal became the accumulation of time. Capillaries beneath my skin began rupturing, and every bend of a joint felt as though a layer of sandpaper lay between the bones. Dark red blotches gradually seeped across my white training uniform. Experience continued entering whichever combat technique I was focusing on with every breath, but my body could not recover nearly as quickly as it was being damaged. Understanding could advance within a handful of breaths. My bones and organs could only endure at their own pace. I divided each complete movement into 3 stages, first reviewing the route in my mind, then performing only the upper body portion, and finally conducting a single full-body test. This gave me less practical feedback, but it kept the strain on my body within the safe range. I reduced the intensity according to plan and alternated between reading and physical verification. The terminal sounded 2 alarms, both caused by my heart rate briefly crossing its limit. Each time, I stopped at once and waited for the readings to recover before continuing. The instant 24 hours elapsed, The words in the original manual I was holding abruptly disappeared. I turned to the next page, but it was blank as well. I took down 2 more books from beside it, with exactly the same result. The original manuals hadn't been destroyed. Once my permit expired, the tower system withdrew my reading access. The books remained where they were, but their contents were no longer visible to me. Only after reviewing the final sequence in my memory did I rise and descend the tower. As I walked from catalog level 50 toward the lower gravity zones, the pressure on my body eased level by level. It wasn't until I saw Feng Yin that I realized he truly had stayed there the entire time. Brother Su. He first glanced at my blood-soaked training uniform, then at the cuffs still displaying 20-fold gravity. The surprise in his expression had already become solemn respect. You stayed under 50-fold gravity for the entire 24 hours. I took breaks, and all my vital signs remained within the monitored range. That explanation did not make this sound any more normal. I raised both wrists. You can remove them now. Feng Yin kept his distance and raised one finger. 2 opposing streams of wind rubbed against each other at high speed above his fingertip, producing fine yellow arcs of electricity. The essence of his ability was wind, yet he could already use the friction between air currents to draw out lightning. That demanded far greater control than simply releasing a powerful gale, and it explained why the university had granted him an individual special admission slot. The wind blade and electrical arcs swept across the cuff's clasps at the same time. With 2 sharp cracks, the cuffs split open and fell to the floor. Once the additional 20-fold gravity vanished, my body suddenly became so light that I nearly used too much force on my first step. Feng Yin reached out to steady me, remembered what had happened earlier, and forcibly pulled his hand back. Don't misunderstand. I'm only worried there might still be a residual gravitational field around you. I understand. I didn't leave the tower immediately. After a long period under intense pressure, suddenly returning to normal gravity could alter blood distribution and the forces on my joints. I rested in the low-gravity zone for half an hour and confirmed there were no signs of new internal bleeding before heading for the exit with Feng Yin. While resting, I placed the 2 broken cuffs into separate evidence bags provided by the tower. Their serial numbers, fracture points, 20-fold displays, and non-functional emergency releases were all sealed on camera. Feng Yin signed as a witness through his own terminal. "You're awfully practiced at this," he said as he watched me add timestamps to the files. "I'm not practiced. I've simply suffered before because I didn't have evidence." After the martial entrance exam, the Zheng family had been able to use public opinion to shift responsibility onto me precisely because most people saw only the result, not the events that caused it. This time, I would not let the malfunction be dismissed as a misunderstanding merely because I had walked out alive. We were still some distance from the main doors when I heard people arguing outside. "Zhenglu, why exactly are you standing guard here with Qian Hao and Li Qiu?" Another voice replied with an easy laugh. "Vice President Yu, the university has no rules saying I can't take a walk near the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower, does it?" Feng Yin stopped and told me quietly. "The one questioning him is Yu Tsunxiao, Vice President of the Student Union. The other one is Zheng Lu." I looked at the broken cuffs in his hand. The person who truly needed to settle accounts with me was already waiting outside. Feng Yin and I did not open the door immediately. The argument outside continued, every word clearly audible even through the alloy doors. Yu Tsunxiao first named Qian Hao and Li Qiu, then demanded to know where the malfunctioning gravity cuffs had gone. After a brief silence, Zheng Lu stopped pretending. "Of course the cuffs were thrown away long ago. If some fool happened to pick them up, what does that have to do with us? Those things automatically rise to 20-fold gravity," Yu Tsunxiao said furiously. "You knew someone had an advance permit to enter the tower, yet you still had them leave malfunctioning cuffs at the entrance? That could kill someone. Don't be so nervous." Zheng Lu gave a small laugh. "As long as that country bumpkin wasn't stupid enough to wear them into a 30-fold gravity zone to study A-rank combat techniques, he'd probably only be badly injured. What sane person would ever do that?" Neither Qian Hao nor Li Qiu contradicted him. Linked with the entrance footage, the cuff's serial numbers, and my physical data, those few sentences completed the entire chain of evidence. Whether Zheng Lu had personally arranged every step could be investigated at leisure. Someone outside suggested contacting the campus medical staff first. Yu Tsunxiao suppressed his anger and called emergency rescue. He seemed to want to enter the tower to search for me, but without temporary access authorization, all he could do was try to contact Feng Yin. Feng Yin waved his terminal as the incoming call notification lit up at that exact moment. "No need to answer," I said. I pushed open the doors of the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower. 6 people stood outside. Zheng Lu, Qian Hao, and Li Qiu occupied one side of the entrance, while Yu Tsun Xiao and 2 student union members blocked the other. My footsteps made everyone turn at once. As I passed through the light at the doorway, my blood-stained white training uniform came fully into view. Yu Tsun Xiao first looked at my face, then quickly checked my limbs and breathing, as though confirming whether I could remain on my feet. Sugu, why are all of you blocking the entrance? I asked. My voice came out hoarser than expected. 24 hours under immense pressure had caused minor bleeding in my lungs, and every word carried the taste of rust. I did not lean against the doorframe. Instead, I distributed my weight evenly between my legs so Zheng Lu would not mistakenly think I could no longer stand steadily. Qian Hao's and Li Qiu's expressions instantly froze. The smile that had still been on Zheng Lu's face stopped just as unnaturally. Feng Yin walked out behind me and stood slightly to my rear. The severed gravity cuffs in his hands still had their screen lit, and the 20-fold reading had not disappeared. Zheng Lu's gaze moved back and forth between the broken cuffs and me. He had probably prepared only to face someone too badly injured to speak. He had not prepared to face the young heir of the Feng family, who had personally experienced the spreading gravity, much less a completely preserved piece of equipment. I saw him make a tiny gesture behind his back with his right hand. Qian Hao immediately tried to shut down his terminal, but a student union member behind Yu Tsun Xiao activated a device lock one step sooner. Yu Tsun Xiao released a long breath. The important thing is that you're alive. I've already called the campus medics. Zheng Lu stared at the blood on my uniform and suddenly said, "Looks like you're hurt badly. The gravity in the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower isn't something everyone can endure." He admitted nothing, but he could not conceal the disappointment in his voice. I glanced at him without responding, then shifted my attention to Qian Hao and Li Qiu. "Seniors, let's confirm this one more time. You said students entering the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower must wear gravity cuffs supplied by you. What is the official regulation number for that rule?" Neither of them could answer. The air outside fell silent. Yu Tsun Xiao turned his communication terminal toward them. "Official university recording is now active. Every word you say will enter the investigation record." Qian Hao's lips moved several times before he finally forced out that the wrong cuffs might have been issued by mistake. Li Qiu claimed the entrance had no complete surveillance coverage, so no one could prove that they had given me that particular pair. Feng Yin raised his terminal. "I signed as a witness inside the tower, and the serial numbers can be matched to the student union's equipment inventory. Would you like us to check the stock right now?" Both men's excuses died at the same time. Qian Hao took half a step backward, while Li Qiu instinctively looked toward Zheng Lu. A single movement made the truth clearer than any explanation could. At last, I had found the person I truly needed to question. "This is all a misunderstanding," Qian Hao said first. "We were only following the usual procedures for entrance duty. No one expected the cuffs to malfunction." Li Qiu nodded along, but did not dare look at the severed cuffs in Feng Yan's hand. I projected the records from my terminal into the air. The curve showing the cuffs rising from 5-fold to 20-fold gravity, 24 hours of vital sign data, the issue time at the entrance, and both men's identities were all there. An ordinary malfunction would not disable the emergency release, conceal the increases, and just happen to be issued to the freshman holding authorization for a high-gravity zone. Zheng Lu stepped forward and shielded the 2 men. "Sugu, they have some ties to the Zheng family. We can discuss compensation for your injuries, credits, medicine, or cash. As long as it's reasonable, I can provide it. And then, there's no need for fellow students to take this all the way." He spoke as though he were leaving me a path of retreat. Once Qian Hao and Li Qiu hid behind him, the tension in their shoulders visibly eased as well. I dismissed the projection and withdrew even the killing intent that had been pressing against my chest. Zheng Lu thought I had accepted his terms. The corner of his mouth had only just begun to rise when I activated Flash Step. My internal injuries made that first step half a beat slower than usual, and it felt as though a blunt weapon had slammed into my chest again. I did not force myself to lengthen my stride for speed. Instead, I used Zheng Lu's body in the center to block the other 2 men's view. By the time they saw me, I was less than half an arm's length away. My first step carried me past his side. The second landed between Qian Hao and Li Qiu. Before either could turn, the edges of my hands struck the junctions between their necks and the backs of their heads. 2 dull impacts sounded almost as one. Qian Hao and Li Qiu collapsed simultaneously. I did not follow up, but they had already lost consciousness, leaving only faint, involuntary twitches in their limbs. I had avoided their carotid arteries and medullas, so the blows did not kill them on the spot. But they had used their authority as student union duty officers to fasten lethal equipment onto a freshman. If all they received was a written disciplinary penalty, the next person they chose might not survive long enough to collect evidence. These strikes would force them through long-term neurological rehabilitation. They would also permanently nail their claim of an operating mistake into their medical records. Sugu, Zhenglu put on his knuckle guards and lunged as he turned. Feng Yin stepped in front of me first. Cyan air currents wound around the short blade in one hand, while yellow electrical arcs leaped across the other. Brother Su just came out of a 50-fold gravity zone. If you really want to fight, I'll fight you. Zhenglu stopped. He clearly recognized Feng Yin and knew what it meant for him to be the young heir of the Feng family. He did not remove the knuckle guards, but his attack never came. Yu Tsuanxiao and the two student union members inserted themselves between us. All of you stop. The footage has already been uploaded. The gravity cuffs and the two duty officers will be investigated. Anyone who makes another move will be dealt with for a serious armed brawl on campus. The alarm of a medical hovercraft sounded in the distance. The medics Yu Tsuanxiao had called in advance landed and found two people lying on the ground. Wasn't Su Gu the one who needed rescue? Why are there two people down? A nurse asked. Treat the ones on the ground first. Another doctor had already crouched to examine them. Their vital signs are stable, but they have suffered severe damage to the nerves at the neck and skull. We'll need complete scans at the medical center to determine whether they can regain independent movement. Qian Hao and Li Qiu were quickly carried away on two stretchers. A doctor also examined my gravity-related injuries and confirmed there was no immediate indication for emergency surgery, but ordered me to rest for at least a week. I signed the medical confirmation without using the fact that I could still stand to deny the seriousness of my injuries. Training and competition both depended on my actual body. Concealing the damage would only make every later judgment rely on false data. Zheng Lu tried to follow the stretchers as they passed him, but a student union member stopped him. Qian Hao and Li Qiu were now subjects of an investigation. Any unrecorded contact could affect their statements. Before leaving after the medical craft, Zheng Lu turned back and stared at me for a long time. Su Gu, this isn't over. It had better not be. I had not forgotten the public opinion campaign after the martial entrance exam, nor had I forgotten what he had just admitted aloud. Qian Hao and Li Qiu were only the hands that carried out the order. The line leading to the person behind them had not yet been severed. Yu Tsuanxiao sealed the cuffs and required everyone present to submit their terminal records. Feng Yin also added his first-hand experience of the transmitted gravitational field to his witness statement. Once the scene had been processed, I turned to look at the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower again. There were still far too many combat techniques inside that I had not finished reading. Before I went in again, I would deal with the trouble lingering at my side. Yu Tsuanxiao escorted me all the way to the campus medical station before formally introducing himself. Yu Tsuanxiao, vice president of the student union. Our people were responsible for what happened this time, so on behalf of the student union, I apologize. Qian Hao's and Li Qiu's duty privileges have been suspended. You will receive updates on the investigation and any disciplinary action. Feng Yin added from beside him. He's also someone I defeated a few weeks ago. Yu Tsuanxiao's expression stiffened. Feng Yin, when someone is giving a serious introduction, you should at least remember his name. I reminded him. Understood, Brother Su. I'll keep that in mind next time. Yu Tsuanxiao looked at him, then at me, and finally decided to pretend he had heard nothing. The doctor completed scans of my internal organs and confirmed that the main problems were ruptured capillaries and muscle damage caused by the extreme gravity. None of the injuries were irreversible, but I was not fit to endure another extreme load within the next week. After we left the medical station, Yu Tsuanxiao led the way while explaining the easiest campus rules to violate, emergency assistance channels, and the research specialties of several important mentors. Qian Hao and Li Qiu had been able to deceive me at the entrance by invoking fake duty procedures. Clearly, memorizing only the publicly listed campus rules was not enough, so I recorded every internal verification method he mentioned. When we reached a place where the tower came back into view, I looked over my shoulder again. Yu Tsuanxiao misunderstood what I meant. If this experience left you with psychological trauma, the university can arrange counseling. Don't force yourself to bear it alone. I'm not afraid, I said. 24 hours was simply too short. There were many combat techniques on catalog level 50 that I didn't have time to finish testing. He stopped walking. You wore malfunctioning cuffs set to 20-fold gravity into catalog level 50, where the baseline is 30-fold. Why else would Qian Hao and the others have waited at the entrance? Yu Tsunxiao remained speechless for a long time, then clapped me firmly on the shoulder. The important thing is that you came out alive. There's no rush to finish studying them. You'll be here for 4 years. As long as you produce results, the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower will open to you again. That's what I thought as well. He took a data drive from his storage space and handed it to me. This is another part of your special admission package. It contains only a catalog of cultivation arts, their characteristics, and the paths they're suited for, not the cultivation texts themselves. Now that you've entered the self-seeking realm, you can select a primary cultivation art from the range the university has opened to you. The Tianyuan art is balanced and neutral. It was always meant as a transitional art. When you convert to another art later, you won't lose any of your existing soul power or injure your body. I connected the drive to my personal terminal. Thousands of cultivation arts were arranged under warrior, assassin, heavy defense, ranged, and special paths. Based on my martial entrance exam record, the university had even prepared an individual page of recommendations for me. The preparation was thoughtful, but I did not make an immediate selection. After every real battle, the Tianyuan art absorbed the professional paths I had used and adjusted its own circulation. It had long since ceased to be the transitional art it had originally been. Until I understood what consequences those changes might invite, however, I did not intend to tell more people about the secret. I'll keep this for now. If I have questions before making a decision, I'll consult one of the university's mentors. Yu Tsunxiao did not pressure me to choose on the spot. He warned that once conversion began, switching halfway through would cause additional losses. The university was offering me the right to choose, not demanding that I sign blindly before a deadline. That restraint inspired more trust than any number of claims about what was best suited for me. Focus on the assassin path, Yu Tsunxiao said. The move you used just now to pass Zheng Lu and drop 2 people at once was cleaner than what many of the assassin colleges' specially admitted freshmen can manage. He also told me that once the freshmen completed their realm breakthroughs and foundational courses, the university would hold a freshman tournament. Those who performed exceptionally would not only receive greater attention and resources from mentors, but would also have an opportunity to submit one reasonable request to the university. The date had not yet been formally announced, but it would take place sometime after the start of the academic year. Quite a few mentors here who came from ordinary families are watching you, Yu Tsunxiao said. The great clans are occupying more and more of the special admission slots. Those mentors hope you can fight your way to a strong ranking. I did not want to become a banner for either side, but I seized on the genuinely useful information in his words. If I achieve a sufficiently high result, can I request permission to enter the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower again? If your performance is strong enough that the university can't ignore it, you have a chance. I put away the data drive and looked one last time at the tower rising into the clouds. Then please send me every rule for the freshman tournament. This time, I'll give them no reason to refuse me. After returning to my dorm, I did not immediately browse every recommended cultivation art. First, I copied the gravity cuff evidence into 3 sets. One to submit to the university, one for Yu Tsunxiao to place on record, and one encrypted copy retained on my personal terminal. I opened the data drive only in an offline environment, reading the art's characteristics without downloading any unauthorized content. Every option the university recommended was stronger than the original Tianyuan art, but each was tied to one primary professional path. Once I completed the conversion, every other path would become an additional burden. For an ordinary martial artist, that meant abandoning distractions and improving efficiency. For someone like me, who could develop multiple combat techniques through breathing at the same time, it might mean voluntarily cutting away my greatest advantage. The combat techniques I had not physically tested in the tower were still waiting in my memory to be connected. Before deciding whether to change arts, I first had to determine just how far the Tianyuan art could grow. 1 week after leaving the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower, I completed the final round of tests for the day in the underground training room beneath my dorm. All 2,000 armored training dummies lay on the floor. Yet the terminal showed that my kill efficiency was 7% lower than before I was injured. In particular, after several consecutive changes of direction, a brief stabbing pain would appear in my chest. When the last dummy fell, I instinctively launched one follow-up strike. Before the tip of my blade landed, a sharp pain shot through my right ribs, making the attack deviate by 2 centimeters. A training target would not exploit those 2 centimeters. A real martial artist like Arno would. I recorded the deviation, the location of the pain, and my breathing rate in my recovery log. An injury wasn't merely a vague statement that I had not fully recovered. It was a specific limitation that repeatedly appeared during particular movements. As long as I knew where it was, I could prepare an alternate route before a battle began. I returned the dagger to the weapons rack and canceled the next training round. The internal injuries left by 50-fold gravity had not completely healed. Increasing the intensity would only make my body compensate with incorrect posture, eventually turning a minor problem into a genuine opening. Fortunately, during the first week of school, most freshmen were breaking through to the self-seeking realm under mentor supervision, and formal classes had yet to begin. I had completed my breakthrough early, so I didn't need to miss classes while recovering. When I returned to the first floor, Mom Mingjie was sitting on the couch with a laptop in his arms. Both the home of the martial god's administrative dashboard and its forum were open on the screen. He had kept the dozens of accounts we used during early testing. They allowed him to check different permission levels, answer questions no one else had handled, and leave the first reply under an inactive new topic. But under the rules we had already established, these accounts did not count toward genuine activity data and could not pretend to be users praising me or manipulate conversations on behalf of advertisers. One user named Mad Wolf had asked when all-round martial god would come online every day for 7 straight days, his tone growing increasingly irritable. Mom Mingjie deliberately sent solemn, formal replies from the customer service account while laughing so hard on the couch that he could barely stop. Brother Sue, finished training for today? Yeah, I'm going to fight a match in the martial arena. The smile vanished from his face at once. You haven't recovered yet. The X device maps the condition of your real body, so your internal injuries will be carried into your conscious avatar. If you enter matchmaking now, you're voluntarily taking a weakness into the fight. That's exactly why I need to go. I took out the X device. Training dummies won't exploit my injuries. A real opponent will. I need to know what I can still do in this condition. We had agreed long ago that whenever I entered the arena as all-round martial god, I would notify him in advance. Ma Mingjie would sit at a fixed camera position in the stands and stream whatever footage the martial arena allowed to be made public to the home of the martial god. Unable to dissuade me, he could only put on his device as well. Once the consciousness link was complete, I entered the virtual spirit realm again as all-round martial god. The moment the system confirmed my login, every user subscribed to that identity through the home of the martial god received an online notification. A warning also appeared on the connection screen. Unhealed injuries detected in the user's physical body. The conscious avatar will synchronize a portion of the pain, force generation restrictions, and fatigue feedback. Virtual death will not damage the physical body, but it may increase mental strain. Continue. I chose to continue, while setting the automatic disconnection threshold below the red line for consciousness fluctuations. I had come here to test my injuries, not prove that I could ignore them. By the time I reached the martial arena, the number of public followers was already rising. Before I even activated matchmaking, more than 80,000 people had streamed into the 100,000-seat stands. The last time I came here, Ma Mingjie had practically enjoyed the best filming position to himself. Now, the seats surrounding the one he had reserved in advance were filled with live streaming equipment and verified accounts. Flamboyant Assassin was here as well. He had become one of the content moderators for the home of the martial god, responsible for reviewing combat analyses and unauthorized reposts. When he saw me enter, he waved, then continued helping Mom Mingjie adjust the camera position. Several familiar IDs also appeared on the spectator list. Anderson, Gun God Reborn, and a number of verified martial artists who had publicly analyzed my previous match. They had not been forcibly pulled in through the site's backend, nor had the home of the martial god paid them. Once the online notification was sent, entering or not was entirely their choice. Genuine attention brought skepticism and departures. It could not be controlled like a test account. These were the spectators I truly needed to face. I was somewhat unaccustomed to attention on this scale, but it would not change my next choice. I activated matchmaking. A massive projection suddenly lit up above the arena. A young man in a floral shirt appeared on screen. He had stubble on his face, and the tuft of fluorescent green hair on top of his head was even more conspicuous than his clothes. Everyone watching live, did you miss me? His voice traveled throughout the arena over the public channel. I'm sorry. Today, I'll be providing commentary for all-round martial gods match. For the first time, a cannon fodder rank match had a professional commentator. The discussion in the stands noticeably increased after Sari appeared. Only from the public introduction did I learn that the martial arena assigned professional commentators to high-interest or high-rank matches to help spectators understand the tactics. Under normal circumstances, even a hero rank match might not receive this treatment, let alone a cannon fodder rank one. My random selections in the first two matches, my cross-profession fighting style, and the attention generated by defeating Anderson had prompted the system to make an exception. Sari had clearly reviewed the recordings beforehand. He listed the key actions from my fights against Flamboyant Assassin and Anderson in detail, then offered his judgment. All-round martial gods' random weapons are certainly entertaining, but neither opponent in his first two matches used the safest strategy. If he draws a higher-ranked opponent today, he had better stop gambling. His words were hardly polite, but they did not affect me. The matchmaking notification sounded at that moment. The portal opening to my front right was not the gray-white of the cannon fodder rank. It was deep crimson. Cross-rank match detected. Opponent's rank, hero. The system's assessment of my strength in the first two battles had already exceeded my current rank, so for my third match, it sent me directly to a hero rank martial artist. A cross-rank match did not mean the system had determined I would win. It meant only that arranging another ordinary cannon fodder rank opponent would no longer evaluate my strength effectively. A win would award more points, while a loss would deduct fewer because of the rank difference. Points were not what mattered to me. A hero rank martial artist could force my injuries, cultivation art, and cross-profession transitions into the open. That was why I had pressed the matchmaking button. The red light faded, and a tall man entered the arena. He had not concealed his appearance. Almost no emotion showed on his square face, but the muscles across his shoulders, back, and arms made his strength-focused path obvious. His public profile appeared on the projection. Arno, a fourth-year student and varsity team captain at Earth's Kaiyong Martial University. Last year's best warrior in the Regional University League. He held a 63% win rate in the hero rank and primarily cultivated a power defense warrior path that balanced strength and protection. A 63% win rate was not so high as to make him unbeatable. Its value lay in the stability of the sample. He did not occasionally defeat powerful opponents through a single explosive technique. He had maintained a win rate above 60% in the hero rank over a long period. Even in the public recordings of his losses, he rarely overextended. Most of the time, a stronger opponent had steadily pressed through his defenses. An opponent like this would not reveal an opening merely because a cannon fodder rank symbol hovered over me. If I wanted to win, I had to create one myself. His profile also showed that he had faced Anderson publicly multiple times and was one of Anderson's long-term rivals in the hero rank. Arno did not relax because of my rank. He looked first at my ID, then at the stands, before spreading his feet and entering a posture from which he could generate force at any time. You're the one who defeated Anderson? I am. Then this match won't be boring. His gaze swept over my shoulders, waist, and legs before settling on my chest, where my breaths were slightly shallow. Public matches did not display medical data, but an experienced enough opponent could see the problems caused by physical body synchronization in a fighter's stance. Arno did not mention it. He simply lowered his center of gravity further. He intended to exploit my injury, and that was exactly what I needed him to do. In a cross-rank match, the lower-ranked fighter received priority in selecting the battlefield and his own weapon. Two selection interfaces appeared before me. Sari named the other blood black gold sword, a heavy shield, and a spear as the most reasonable options. He believed I could switch between warrior and heavy defense paths. If I made a serious selection, I would at least have a chance to drag the battle into my own rhythm. The projection also displayed the spectators' choices in real time. Long swords and heavy shields accounted for the vast majority. Fewer than 10% had selected random. If my only goal were to improve my chances of winning, I would have chosen a longsword as well. But I had entered the martial arena to test whether the myriad aspect Tianyuan art could establish a route under unfamiliar conditions on the fly. Choosing the weapon I knew best would only repeat an answer I already had. As for a random selection, doing that against a hero rank opponent isn't confidence. It's handing the result to luck. Some people in the stands agreed. Others were waiting to see me choose randomly for a third time. Without hesitation, I pressed both wheels at once. Random weapon. Random battlefield. The wheels accelerated. Arno's expression did not change. Sari fell silent for half a second, then laughed helplessly. All right. It seems someone here is determined to let luck decide how he dies today. I watched the spinning pointers. Ma Mingjie sent one confirmation through the spectator signal we had arranged in advance. The public livestream was active, my physical monitoring readings were normal, and the injury warning remained yellow. He would provide no tactical information during the match. His sole responsibility was to request a forced system disconnect if my readings crossed their limits. With that safety line in place, I could leave all my attention on the problem about to appear. Luck could determine only the problem. How I solved it was still up to me. The first wheel stopped on Airborne Arena. The platform beneath our feet began to rise. The enclosed arena rapidly transformed into a metal stage suspended over 3,000 feet in the air. There were no railings around it and no cover of any kind. Only layers of clouds sweeping beneath the platform. One misstep over the edge would mean an immediate loss, followed by the experience of a high-altitude fall. Once the battlefield finished generating, I tapped the ground lightly with my toe. The platform would sway under heavy impacts. There were no fixed reference points along the edges, and the crosswinds at this altitude would constantly alter clothing and trajectories. If I focused entirely on Arno, even a half-degree tilt underfoot could carry the landing point of my footwork beyond the safe boundary. I included the cloud's movement and the beacons at the platform's four corners in my peripheral vision. The former would reveal the crosswind, the latter, the angle of tilt. This open terrain best suited a frontal power fighter. Arno did not have to worry about me using obstacles to delay him, and he could fully extend the attack range of a massive weapon. The second wheel slowly came to a stop. A simply designed pistol dropped from the light screen to my feet. A soul-gathering pistol. This was a standard weapon used to introduce ranged warriors to their discipline. Each shot had very little power. Its only advantages were a high firing rate and low soul power consumption, allowing beginners to practice accuracy repeatedly. Sorry couldn't hold back his laughter. A platform more than 3,000 feet in the air with no cover, a hero-rank power defense warrior, and a training pistol that might not even penetrate protective soul power. What all-round martial god drew this time isn't a disadvantage. It's a hopeless situation. I picked up the pistol and injected a small amount of soul power. The weapon gave almost no feedback, and its energy-gathering structure was extremely simple. There was virtually no ceiling that could be raised by charging the shot. It had no physical magazine. As long as I possessed soul power, it could continue firing. The cost was that the user had to gather the energy for every shot in real time. The higher the firing rate, the more easily errors in the wrist, concentration, and soul power control would accumulate. One shot could not break his defense. Repeated hits on the same structural point might be another matter. Arno watched me finish the inspection. You're certain you want to use that? I examined his stance and the movement of soul power between his chest and abdomen one more time, then nodded. It will be enough. Arno did not try to persuade me again. He selected a twin crescent battle axe taller than a man from the weapons menu. When the axe head struck the floor, it smashed a shallow crater into the metal platform. He took 2 practice swings to confirm how the crosswind would affect the blade, then tapped the ground with the haft to estimate its load-bearing capacity. The random battlefield was unfamiliar to him as well, and he did not skip his preparations just because his weapon gave him an advantage. That steadiness was more threatening than the 63% win rate in his public profile. Guardian Axe. The public weapon description showed that, beyond its destructive power in close combat, the battle axe could use soul power to generate a defensive shield around its wielder, precisely countering a stream of low-powered ranged attacks. Both weapons were confirmed, and the soundproof barrier around the battlefield rose. Every voice in the stands vanished, leaving only the wind at altitude and the system countdown. 3. Arno angled the battle axe along the right side of his body, its head shielding his heart and throat. If my first shot targeted a weak point, he needed only a slight turn of the wrist to block it. If I retreated, his starting posture could instantly become a charge. 2. I did not stand at the center of the platform. It was farthest from every edge and appeared safe, but it was also the place where the giant axe's range could most easily trap me. I shifted half a step in the direction of the crosswind, so my first dodge could borrow the wind and reduce the twist through my injured ribs. 1, 2, 1. I activated the B-rank combat technique Quick Draw and fired at Arno's heart. The soul power bullet struck exactly where I aimed. It burned only a small hole in his uniform. His skin reddened slightly, but the shot did not truly penetrate even his protective soul power. Arno looked down. Are you trying to tickle me? He did not activate the battle axe's shield. He had already confirmed that a single shot could not harm his body. The next second, the B-rank combat technique Aura Step and the B-rank ability Power Multiplication erupted simultaneously. The seemingly heavy body drew an afterimage across the platform as Arno crossed more than 30 feet in the blink of an eye. The giant axe descended from a high diagonal angle, sealing off my route to dodge outward. I turned sideways and withdrew beyond its attack range. The axe blade struck the platform, and the airborne arena pitched violently like a ship's deck hit by an enormous wave. A crack spread outward from the point of impact, stopping less than 7 feet from the edge. Arno wrenched the battle axe free and charged a second time. I steadied the pistol and began firing continuously. Before my first burst ended, the guardian axe began glowing with gentle yellow light. A honeycomb-patterned energy shield enveloped Arno's entire body. Straight shots, curving shots, deceptive shots, and ricochet shots struck from different angles, sending layer after layer of ripples across the barrier. Not one penetrated. Arno continued closing in through the hail of bullets. The soul-gathering pistol truly could not penetrate his 2 layers of defense. But from the first shot, I had never expected a single bullet's power to solve the problem. An energy shield was not a wall without structure. The Guardian Axe's soul power circuits maintained it, dispersing every impact outward in all directions. If the same area were placed under continuous pressure, the circuit's recovery would gradually fall behind the damage. The problem was that Arno would not stand still and let me shoot him. Instead of retreating to create distance, I used the newly learned A-rank combat technique variable frequency step and cut inside his close combat range. Inside the tower, variable frequency step had been no more than pages, movements, and experience accumulated through breathing. Now that the giant axe was truly descending toward my body, the apparently unnecessary pauses in the technique revealed their purpose. They were not deceleration. They deliberately prompted the opponent to complete one incorrect prediction in advance. On the first slow step, Arno's axe chased the place where I was about to appear. On the second, I accelerated abruptly and slipped past the haft. On the third, I did not speed up. The shoulder he raised early to defend himself instead blocked several decoy rounds aimed toward his heart. Fast, slow, pause, then a second acceleration. The giant axe swept past my shoulder, waist, and thigh again and again, missing each by only a short distance. High-gravity training had ground away every unnecessary angle in my footwork. What I needed to control now was not maximum speed, but the prevention of any fixed prediction forming in Arno's mind. Meanwhile, the soul-gathering pistol never stopped firing. Some bullets scattered across the shield, producing chaotic impact ripples. The others always returned to the area around his heart. To conceal the true target, for every shot I sent into the core area, I used 3 to 5 shots with different trajectories to interfere with his vision. Straight shots established the shortest path. Curving shots created ripples from the sides. Deceptive shots borrowed the crosswind to alter course. Ricochet shots struck the platform first, then deflected into the shield. The purpose of the 4 shooting techniques was not to show off. Only by making Arno believe every bullet was searching for a new weakness could I prevent him from realizing that I had targeted the same location from beginning to end. Arno's axe attacks grew faster and faster. He was learning variable frequency step as well. His first 10 attacks chased my current position. Starting with the 11th, his axe was already pressing in advance toward the landing point after my speed changed. If I continued repeating slow, fast, pause, he would turn the footwork against me within only a few exchanges. So, during my smoothest entry, I deliberately stopped firing and allowed a brief gap in the barrage. Arno assumed my soul power control had become unstable and accelerated his pursuit. Once he completed that judgment, I resumed shooting at the earlier frequency, corrupting his observations again. He needed only to focus on attacking. I had to maintain my footwork, observe his soul power circuits, calculate trajectories, and absorb the pistol's continuous recoil all at once. My internal injuries were also being pulled apart by the high-intensity movement. Every deep breath carried the taste of blood. The platform tilted violently again. My next step was half a beat slow, and the giant axe had already sealed my retreat. I could no longer avoid the blade completely. Before it struck, I twisted my body so the edge slid away from my chest, allowing the flat back of the axe to slam into my side instead. The heavy impact hurled me through the air. My saws carved long tracks across the metal floor. I did not stop until I reached the platform's edge. A drop of more than 3,000 feet lay just beyond my heels. Another half step back and I would fall. Blood surged into my throat. I coughed twice, splattering it beside my feet. The conscious avatar's blood was system feedback, but the pain in my chest came from my real body. An automatic disconnection warning flashed yellow once at the edge of my vision, still short of the red line I had set. I drew my left foot inward half an inch. For the next use of variable frequency step, I would no longer involve my injured ribs in violent twisting. I would be slower, but the same wound would not continue tearing open. The injuries left by the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower had indeed affected that final change of step. In my normal condition, that strike would never have cost me so much distance. Arno gave me no time to recover. Your footwork is good, and your aim is excellent. He approached with the axe. But your bullets will never hurt me. Let's end this. I looked at the section of the shield covering his heart. More than 300 effective hits had accumulated inside an area barely over an inch in diameter. No damage was visible on the surface, but the rebound of the soul power circuit was nearly twice as slow as at the beginning. It needed only one final shot. I raised the pistol, then pointed first at my own heart. The next shot is going here again. Arno snorted and launched another charge. I did not fire a burst. Once he entered range, I flicked out a single shot. The bullet struck the old impact point. The honeycomb shield did not immediately spring back as before. It caved inward, placing every neighboring structure under tension at the same time. The depression grew deeper. The next instant, the entire shield exploded outward from the area over his heart. Fragments of golden soul power scattered in every direction. The bullet, though most of its force had already been stripped away, still passed through the opening and struck the same spot as my very first shot. Obvious astonishment appeared on Arno's face for the first time. I smiled at him. See? It hit. Arno immediately poured soul power back into the Guardian Axe. The battle axe did not respond. Its energy circuit had collapsed from the core area and could not generate another shield for the time being. At last, I no longer needed a massive spread of bullets to conceal my objective. The moment Arno raised his right shoulder, 7 bullets reached his shoulder joint, the inside of his elbow, and both eyes first. They still could not penetrate his protective soul power, but they forced him to alter the angle at which he generated force and slowed his previously continuous axe attack by a beat. His protective soul power had not disappeared. Bullets striking his eyes would not blind him, and shots to his joints were unlikely to cause substantial damage. What truly mattered was the body's protective instinct. Even knowing that the defense would hold, the eyes still blinked when high-speed projectiles approached, and joints struck repeatedly still adjusted subconsciously. Arno quickly realized this. He forced himself to stop protecting his shoulder and accepted all 7 shots in exchange for one complete swing. The axe blade grazed my back, leaving a long, shallow wound. That also confirmed that he had begun actively resisting his instincts. Repeating the same manipulation in the next exchange would not work a second time. I used that half beat to leave his attack radius. Next, his knee moved first. I sent bullets toward the side of his knee and his ankle, forcing his charge to become a defense. By the time Arno knocked aside the shots meant to trigger a blink, I had re-established distance from the other side. Without the energy shield, the soul-gathering pistol still was not a high-damage weapon, but it could interfere with every weak point that had to be exposed. Only now did the pistol's low energy consumption become a true advantage. More than 1,000 shots had not emptied my soul power, and I could still maintain variable frequency step and several shooting techniques simultaneously. Had I randomly drawn a high-powered rifle, I might have exhausted both ammunition and soul power before completing the earlier 300-plus concentrated shots. A so-called hopeless weapon was merely one that could not solve the problem by the most direct method. Arno tried tightening his defense, using the battle axe to cover his upper body as he advanced. I switched to shooting his weapon hand, instep, and visual blind spots, forcing him to decide with every step whether to protect his vital points or preserve his pursuit speed. He quickly changed tactics, tucking the axe haft against his elbow and using smaller movements to protect his eyes instead of seeking a single decisive strike. After 3 consecutive short axe pressures, I had only 4 steps left between me and the platform's edge. I ricocheted 1 bullet off the metal behind him. Believing the attack had come from his rear, Arno instinctively turned his body halfway. Only then did I cut across the gap he had just opened and return to the platform's interior. A low-powered weapon could not force him backward, but it could force him to look again. After several exchanges, his offensive rhythm had been carved into pieces. "You've been shooting the same spot since the beginning?" Arno asked. More than 300 rounds landed near the core. Every other shot was there to keep you from seeing those 300. He glanced at the soul power still leaking from his chest and finally understood why the last bullet had shattered his shield. But he did not concede. Arno retreated half a step and held the Guardian Axe horizontally before him. His rapid breathing changed into deliberately restrained, prolonged inhalations as the soul power in his body began concentrating in both arms and the axe haft. He had abandoned the pursuit. This was not a rest. He was preparing an attack that would cover the entire platform. The metal plates beneath my feet began vibrating faintly. Cracks spread in 8 directions around the battle axe, and even the dust in the air was pressed toward the floor by the gathering soul power. I tightened my grip on the pistol. Earlier attacks had damaged the platform until only several large landing areas remained. Once the 8 branches of soul power erupted simultaneously, the shock waves would not merely pursue me. They would make those footholds tilt further. If I simply fled around the edge, I would eventually be forced off into the sky. My best choice was not to move away, but to approach the caster and enter the center before all 8 shock waves fully spread. Arno wanted to erase the advantages of distance and footwork with an area attack. If the strike simply erupted outward, I would still have room to evade it. But his soul power had not been distributed evenly. It had formed 8 branches that he could control a second time. All-round martial god. He raised the battle axe. This strike decides the match. If I evade it, you won't have enough soul power left to continue the pursuit, I said. Then I won't let you evade it. For the first time, Arno had explicitly included himself within the attack's range. He had not lost his reason. After assessing our injuries and defenses, he had chosen the exchange most favorable to him. All right, Arno roared and slammed the twin crescent battle axe into the floor. 8 wastes earth-splitting axe. The metal platform split apart with a deafening crash. After the guardian axe struck the floor, 8 shock waves tore through the metal platform and advanced on me from different directions. I used variable frequency step to avoid the first head-on wave. After sweeping past my side, it did not disappear. Under Arno's control, it abruptly changed direction and pursued me again from behind. The 8 attack paths continuously intersected, rapidly cutting the remaining footholds into fragments. As the first shock wave skimmed beneath my soles, an entire section of the platform's edge folded downward and broke away. The sensation of weightlessness traveled up from my ankles. I immediately changed my landing point to the inside of the crack. A second ripple raised a metal plate from the opposite direction, transforming what had been a safe spot into a slope in the blink of an eye. The true danger of this technique was not 8 separate instances of damage. It was the way the battlefield itself kept changing. If I calculated my next step using the terrain from 1 second earlier, my landing point would inevitably be wrong. I did not look back. The sounds of metal breaking, the air pressure, and the vibrations beneath my feet already carried the directions into my ears. After 2 consecutive changes of step, the leading shock wave collided with another ripple, and part of their energy canceled out. If Arno only stood in place maintaining the attack, I could continue making the 8 shock waves wear one another down. But amid the rising dust, there was a footstep that did not belong to any shock wave. You finally revealed an opening. Using the noise and smoke as cover, Arno had closed to within 16 feet. He was no longer carrying the battle axe, and his body blocked the only direction that led out of the encirclement. I immediately understood his plan. 8 wastes earth-splitting axe had never been intended to hit me directly. Its purpose was to trap me in place. Arno was a power defense warrior, and his body was far stronger than mine in my injured condition. When all 8 shock waves converged and struck us together, I would most likely be the first to fall. We take it together? I asked. One hit from the flat of my axe made you cough blood. Arno entered a close-range interception stance. I can take it. You can't. There was no mockery in his voice. For a power defense warrior, using his superior defense to force a mutually destructive attack was the most reliable path to victory. If I tried to break outward now, he would use his body to knock me back into the shock waves. If I attacked him head-on, he needed only to hold me for half a second before all 8 forces converged. The 8 shock waves were only several feet away. His judgment was correct. In a direct exchange of damage, my injuries would erupt first. But to control 8 wastes earth-splitting axe, Arno had sent nearly all his soul power into his arms and the ground. Several brief gaps had appeared in the previously airtight circulation protecting his chest and abdomen. The pulse-cutting method I had learned in the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower had never focused on flesh. Its targets were the moments when soul power passed through specific nodes. The pistol fired repeatedly. The bullets did not concentrate on one location. They struck, in sequence, several nodes where Arno's soul power circulation was weakest. The first shot only stopped his breathing for an instant. By the time the second landed, the soul power that had already left his chest could not return in time. The final shots connected the gaps that had not yet closed into a single broken line. Arno's body suddenly went rigid. Large quantities of soul power leaked from his disrupted circulation. Without its support, even holding the guardian axe became difficult. His hands opened, and the battle axe crashed beside his feet. You? He tried to raise an arm to stop me, but it would not lift halfway. Commit 30% to the attack and reserve 70% for yourself, I said as I walked past him. Sending out all your soul power in the final strike is the same as offering your own critical weakness to your opponent. The final bullet struck his heart. Without protective soul power, Arno's virtual body disintegrated on the spot. Until the moment he vanished, he was still trying to bring his arm in front of his chest. But pulse-cutting method had not severed a muscle. It had severed the soul power circulation commanding that muscle. His consciousness issued the order, but his body could no longer receive it. The 8 shock waves had closed to within 1.5 feet. They whipped up the hem of my uniform, only to lose control the instant their caster disappeared and dissolve into a ring of light fragments spreading outward. Battle concluded. Winner, all-round martial god. When the soundproof barrier dropped, the stands did not immediately erupt in cheers. Over the public commentary channel, Sari admitted that he had not understood the cause of the final collapse in Arno's soul power. He could confirm only that it happened after several consecutive precision shots. Rather than inventing a conclusion on the spot to preserve his professional authority, he requested the public replay so he could analyze it afterward. That was more professional than forcing out some flattering explanation. Even Sari replayed the last several seconds repeatedly. He could see Arno's soul power suddenly leaking away, but at normal speed, he could not determine what my bullets had struck. Another explanation soon appeared on the public channel. Perhaps something abnormal had happened to Arno's real body, causing his conscious avatar to lose its soul power at the critical moment. Others noted that the X device mapped a person's physical state and said similar accidents had occurred before. I did not stay to explain. Where my bullets had landed and why they severed his circulation were already preserved in the battle data. Anyone capable of understanding it would naturally find the answer. After leaving the virtual spirit realm, I first examined my physical body. The old injury along my ribs had reopened because of Arno's axe, but there was no other serious new damage. Once the wound was treated, I returned to the underground training room and walked through the timing with which pulse-cutting method had struck the soul power nodes. Victory did not erase my mistakes. If Arno had reserved even 10% of his soul power to protect his circulation, my bullets could not have made him lose control on the spot. If 8 Waste's earth-splitting axe had persisted for another half-second after he disappeared, the remaining shock waves would have swallowed me as well. I had not found the one and only correct answer to the battle. My opponent had simply left a large enough opening in his final strike. Ma Mingjie told me about the online controversy later. Outside forums divided the match into 2 questions. How had a soul-gathering pistol shattered the Guardian Axe's shield? And why had Arno suddenly lost his soul power at the final moment? People who could not understand the tactics attributed both results to a system malfunction or an abnormality in Arno's physical body. The argument drove traffic and brought many people who had never watched my first 2 battles into the home of the martial god for the first time. These people aren't analyzing anything. They decided you won through luck first, and now they're searching for reasons to support the conclusion. Ma Mingjie pushed his laptop toward me. Should I delete the posts? Remove only abuse, fabricated evidence, and people impersonating those involved. Don't delete the questions themselves. Before evidence appeared, everyone had the right to make a mistaken judgment. If the home of the martial god permitted only one conclusion, it would be no different from those forums that reached a verdict in advance. That night, a newly registered account uploaded a battle analysis video. The account was named Azure Moon Wolf. The video did not speculate about my thoughts. It divided the combat record into force output, soul power fluctuations, movement paths, and ballistic models. Its creator reconstructed the trajectories of more than 1,000 soul power bullets and marked the more than 300 that consistently landed around the energy shield's hard area. The maximum deviation was no more than 3 centimeters. The remaining bullets were spread across other locations to conceal the true objective. When an energy shield's core circuit suffers repeated high-frequency impacts, it eventually develops structural fatigue like metal bent over and over, the video's mechanical voice explained. The final shot did not suddenly become stronger. It caused a circuit already at its limit to collapse completely. The second section proceeded more slowly. Frame by frame, The creator marked the gaps that appeared in Arno's chest and abdomen's soul power circulation after he activated 8 Waste's earth-splitting axe, then overlaid the impact points of my final bullets on those gaps. This was not an abnormality in the physical body. All-round martial god first identified the vulnerability in his opponent's cultivation art, then used ranged fire to sever its circulation. Most ranged warriors have no need to study the weaknesses of close combat cultivation arts, and very few could judge the nodes under that kind of pressure. This method is built on cross-profession experience and is almost impossible to copy directly. After the video was published, the home of the martial god possessed, for the first time, a technical analysis serious enough for martial colleges to repost. Ma Mingjie pinned it, but did not label it an official conclusion. He stated only that its data source was the public combat record. We also reviewed every category of data used in the video. The trajectories came from the public replay that the martial arena permitted users to download. The soul power fluctuations were models reconstructed by the creator from the images, not leaked backend records. In the pin notice, Ma Mingjie clearly distinguished verifiable facts from the creator's inferences, preventing spectators from mistaking precise animation for raw system data. The controversy did not end completely. Not until Arno uploaded a response of his own. He confirmed that his soul power had gone out of control after I struck weaknesses in his circulation. He also thanked me for the words, "Commit 30% to the attack and reserve 70% for yourself." They had identified a bottleneck that had troubled him for a long time. At the end of the video, Arno left only one warning. You don't have to approve of all-round martial god, but don't use my name to endorse your judgment. If I meet you in the real world, I'll personally make you take it back. The participants' confirmation ended most of the controversy. Ma Mingjie did not delete the earlier skeptical posts. He simply added a link beside each title stating that the participant had responded. Those whose judgments had been overturned could preserve their original words or revise them on their own. If the site erased every mistaken step once the answer became clear, later visitors would see only a false version of correctness that pretended no one had ever hesitated. I told him to add that rule to the content moderation guidelines. I saved Azure Moon Wolf's analysis in my personal training archive. This person had not only understood the tactics, but had also completed the ballistic and soul power models in a very short time. Their true ability was far beyond that of an ordinary content creator. I did not yet know who they were, but I remembered the ID. For the week after the hero rank match, I paid almost no attention to the internet. After every real battle, subtle changes occurred in the Tianyuan arts circulation. Following my fight with Arno, the ranged branch and pulse-cutting method reconnected to the main loop, and the quality of my soul power improved slightly as well. The change was small, but it undeniably persisted. I used that time to reorganize the routes of my cultivation art. With the first profits from the home of the martial god, I also purchased several training weapons through university channels. The site's revenue and my personal training expenses were kept in separate accounts. Ma Mingjie maintained the records, and every transaction could be traced. Yu Xiao called to notify me about our first required class. Most of the freshmen have completed their breakthroughs and stabilized their realms. The first class of the academic year will be held this afternoon in Lecture Hall 1. Attendance is mandatory. Also, the freshman tournament is set for 3 days from now. You haven't met with any mentors lately, so don't lose track of the date. 2 weeks had passed since I left the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower. The first week had gone to recovery and the virtual match. The second, to correcting my cultivation art. The university had waited until most freshmen stabilized at the self-seeking realm before formally beginning required classes and the tournament process. I had not completely recovered to my condition before entering the tower, but I could now complete the entire movement sequence without pulling at my old injury. 3 days was enough for final adjustments, but there could be no more high-risk practical combat. I agreed while washing up. After a brief pause, Yu Xiao still asked the question he cared about most. Have you finished reviewing the cultivation art catalog the university gave you? Which one did you choose? I haven't decided. I'm still cultivating the Tianyuan art. The other end of the call remained silent for several seconds. The freshman tournament is in 3 days, and every outstanding mentor will be there. Everyone else has already used a primary cultivation art to complete the first phase of stabilization, and you're still clinging to a transitional art. Yes. Fine. Yu Xiao sounded as though he had given up trying to persuade me. May fortune favor you in battle. That afternoon, Ma Mingjie, Feng Yan, and I went to Lecture Hall 1 together. I left the cultivation art catalog on my personal terminal and did not register an arbitrary choice merely because I was attending class. The tournament in 3 days would let everyone see that the Tianyuan art had already changed. I did not have much time left to delay creating a public explanation. Until I had one I could trust, I could only restrict access to high-precision data and prevent anyone from directly reconstructing the art's routes from fluctuations in my circulation. People recognized us continuously along the way. Feng Yin was both the young heir of the Feng family and the specially admitted student for whom the university had opened the tower early. My martial entrance exam and admission history were public knowledge. Naturally, the two of us walking together attracted plenty of attention. Ma Mingjie knew the freshman roster much better than I did and kept identifying people as we passed through the crowd. Xiao Junjian, a special admission student at the Assassin College, Wu Zhun from the Range College, Lu Guang from the Heavy Defense College, and several powerful students from different cities and smaller clans were all watching Feng Yin and me. Feng Yin lowered his voice. Zheng Lu is here too. He's been staring at you. I looked in the direction he indicated, but saw only Zheng Lu quickly averting his gaze. Brother Su, the investigation you asked me to conduct has results, Feng Yin said. Come to my dorm after class. I'll give you the evidence. I suppressed the killing intent in my heart and nodded. After the bell rang, an elderly man with a full head of silver hair and square-framed glasses walked onto the stage. The lecture hall still held some noise, but it quickly fell silent when everyone saw him. Mentor Lan Qing. Clear respect entered Feng Yan's voice for the first time. Several of his former students are federal generals. He hasn't accepted a disciple in years. I never expected him to teach the freshmen's first class. Lan Qing had prepared no conventional course materials. He raised a hand and activated 3 projection walls. A recording I knew extremely well appeared before the entire class. Today's teaching material is a recent public match from the martial arena. All-round martial god against Arno of Kaiyang Martial University. The projection showed me being struck by the flat of the axe and sliding all the way to the platform's edge. Someone in the hall drew a quiet breath, while others quickly pulled up Azure Moon Wolf's analysis on their terminals. I re-examined that mistake. Inside the arena, Arno's body and battle axe had occupied all my attention. From a third-person perspective, the speed of the clouds had provided an early warning before the platform's angle changed. The same battle offered another answer when viewed from a different angle. Watching a recording of my own battle in front of thousands of classmates was a strange experience. Fortunately, all-round martial god's real identity had not been exposed. Aside from Ma Mingjie, who was suppressing laughter beside me, no one knew that the person using the soul-gathering pistol in the recording was sitting in the middle of the lecture hall. Lan Qing played the entire battle once, then asked the students to identify the key to victory or defeat from their own perspectives. Xiao Junjian believed the A-rank variable frequency step had held off Arno's close-range pressure. Lu Guang emphasized my control over the rhythm of offense and defense. Wu Zhun regarded the 300 precision shots at the core and the final attack on the cultivation art's weak point as the technical limit of a ranged warrior. All their judgments were valid. Each was simply standing within the perspective of his own profession and seeing one part of the battle. Lan Qing did not immediately give an answer. Instead, he suddenly called my name. Sugu, what do you think of all-round martial god's performance? Every pair of eyes in the lecture hall turned toward me. I stood and looked again at the movement frozen on the projection. His main problem is that he relies too heavily on physical instinct. Someone in the front row frowned. For a freshman, training evasion, blocks, and counters until they became instinctive was already an extremely ambitious goal. My assessment sounded as though I were rejecting the training direction pursued by most of the class. I continued, instinct isn't wrong. Without instinctive reactions, a martial artist who waits to see an attack clearly and then thinks about it has already been hit. But fixed instincts create habits. An opponent who repeatedly studies your recordings can learn which direction you move first when faced with a feint toward your shoulder, or which foot you habitually use to adjust when attacked low. So after forming combat instincts, you still have to learn to master them. When necessary, you must deliberately choose the opposite of your body's habit and make your opponent read the wrong answer. Lan Qing did not immediately comment. He rewound the recording to 1 second before the axe hit me. Be specific. Where did instinct make the decision for him? I pointed at my left foot on the projection. When Arno used his second low horizontal sweep, all-round martial god drew his left foot inward. When he saw the same opening movement for the third time, his body repeated what had worked. But the platform's angle had already changed. The same movement could no longer make the axe blade slide away. And if conscious control took over, Abandon a complete dodge. Deliberately take the flat of the axe instead of the blade, then use the impact to escape the encirclement. The injury would worsen, but he wouldn't be forced to the edge. That was the answer I found after watching the recording. During the battle, I had failed to do it. The lecture hall became silent. Lan Qing stared at me for a moment, then nodded lightly. Correct. Under the university's curriculum, outstanding students form stable instinctive responses during their second year. In their third and fourth years, the focus shifts to controlling and deceiving those instincts. All-round martial god can maintain complex tactics under tremendous pressure, but recordings can still capture his habitual movements. What Su Gu identified is not a beginner's mistake. It is the problem all-round martial god must solve in his next stage. The looks of confusion quickly changed. Some students began replaying the moment when the flat of the axe hit me. Others recorded Lan Qing's words, mastering instinct. Several specially admitted students who regarded me as a competitor became even more serious than before. I sat down and continued listening. Lan Qing broke down, segment by segment, how Arno used the range of his attacks to compress my footwork and how I used false trajectories to conceal the precision shots at the core. Many details were hard to notice from a participant's perspective. Observing again from outside the recording instead revealed several choices I could improve. By the end of the class, I had written down more than a dozen training items. Lan Qing did not leave mastering instinct as a pretty concept. He made every student select a familiar defensive movement and repeat it 10 times while the person beside them changed the attacking rhythm at random. After the 5th repetition, most students' bodies began moving in advance. By the 10th, their feet shifted toward the habitual direction before the attack even appeared. I reacted early as well. My ability allowed me to master movements faster. It did not mean I would never form habits. The faster I learned, the faster an incorrect instinct might become fixed. Before closing the course materials, Lan Qing looked at me again. Seeing a problem taught in the third-year curriculum at a glance does not mean you can skip the basics. Understood, I said. I'll be watching your performance in the freshman tournament 3 days from now. He did not ask why I was still using the Tianyuan art, but his reminder was clearly more than a courtesy. After class, Feng Yin invited Mom Mingjie and me to eat at his dorm. I still have several questions about combat techniques that I'd like to ask. Dinner is on me today, and Brother Ma should come too. Mom Mingjie agreed at once. I paid for Brother Su throughout high school. At last, someone else gets to be the sucker. On the way to the dorm, Yu Tzu and Xiao sent a message to a temporary group chat containing the 3 of us. Xie Sanli and the young mentor Qian Lu had learned that I had not changed cultivation arts. Neither of them could understand it. Some people speculated that I had grown lax after entering university. Others guessed that I had drawn close to Feng Yin, so I could yield the freshman championship to the young heir of the Feng family. At the end, Yu Tzu and Xiao wrote, "Has it occurred to anyone that Feng Yin might be the one following behind? They all say I've lost my mind." After reading it, Feng Yin sent him a voice message directly. "You're not wrong this time. I genuinely have a great deal to learn from Brother Su. As for the freshman tournament, we'll know who can take first after we fight. Brother Su has no need to yield anything to me." The public rumors did not immediately disappear, but at least Yu Tzu and Xiao now knew that what he had seen outside the tower was not an illusion. Feng Yan's residence had a structure similar to our dorm, but its internal resources were entirely different. His family steward had already delivered a table full of star-rated cuisine. Most of the ingredients could gradually replenish soul power and repair the body. 3 sets of training utensils with different weights also sat beside the table. Feng Yin explained that they were not part of dining etiquette. The Feng family used them to integrate fine soul power control into daily life for its younger members. The chopsticks looked identical, but their centers of gravity changed randomly while being held. The slightest lapse in attention made it impossible to keep food between them. On his first attempt, Mom Mingjie dropped a slice of meat back onto the plate 3 times in a row. "Your great clans even train while eating?" He simply switched to a spoon. Training that truly works often requires no separate allocation of time. After saying this, Feng Yin saw that I had already adapted to the utensils and paused. Of course, Brother Su isn't a normal reference point. Ma Mingjie concentrated on eating, while Feng Yin and I moved from discussing variable frequency step to the palm technique he had just learned. His questions were not shallow. In several places, even the elders of the Feng family had only told him to do it as shown, without explaining why. But once the movements were broken back down into center of gravity, joints, and the order in which soul power arrived, the answers were often present in the structure. nor was I teaching him one-sidedly. Feng Yin had received great clan training since childhood. His understanding of ability control, the protection of cultivation arts, and martial resources far surpassed mine. As we verified ideas against each other, I also gained a clearer understanding of how wind power could extend into the lightning attribute. Feng Yin did not hand me his family's complete mnemonic. He demonstrated only the fourth generation of publicly known combat techniques. Whenever our discussion touched the core of the threefold origin art, he directly stated that he could not reveal it. I likewise would not exchange advice on techniques for his inheritance. Once the boundaries were explicit, the exchange became more effective. We dissected every movement we could discuss as deeply as possible and did not try to obtain the forbidden parts through probing questions. By the end of one complete discussion, a soul power node that had obstructed him for a long time had already begun to loosen. He also helped me confirm one fact. Wind could produce lightning through high-speed friction in opposing directions, but it created additional pressure where the two branches merged. The threefold origin art used a third, not yet fully developed circuit to bear this imbalance. Feng Yin did not explain what attribute the third circuit would ultimately correspond to, and I did not question him about his family's secret. I merely added, wind and lightning cannot operate together indefinitely without a price, to my assessment of him. Feng Yin poured me a drink and solemnly performed a simplified teacher's salute. Brother Su, this meal was worth every credit. I clinked my cup against his, but did not continue discussing martial arts. Feng Yin, what did you find in the investigation I asked you to conduct into Zheng Lu's purchase of banned pills? Ma Mingjie set down his spoon. For once, he made no joke. Do you need me to leave? No, I said. If I can't submit the evidence after the tournament, you'll activate the backup. I did not hide the risks from him, but neither did I involve him in switching the medicine. Knowing and carrying out were two different things. His sole responsibility was to submit existing files to the university if the predetermined conditions occurred. The smile left his face. He raised a hand and disabled all outside communications in the room. We have the evidence. He had the room's offline projection complete a malware scan before connecting the storage device. The transaction evidence involved channels for banned medicine. If the files had been remotely tagged or implanted with tracking code, opening them could alert the Zheng family instantly. Ma Mingjie placed his personal terminal on the table and disabled all permissions associated with the site's backend. Tonight's conversation would not be accidentally recorded by the platform he operated. Only after all three of us completed the isolation procedures did Feng Yin press play. And what Zheng Lu has prepared for the freshman tournament is even more dangerous than what we originally discovered. The footage Feng Yin opened had been recorded in the busy downtown area of Tianjin Academy City. A man wrapped from head to toe entered an inconspicuous health supplement store and completed a transaction with federal paper currency, which rarely circulated in this era. The image then switched to the identity match results. A collateral member of the Zheng family who had been running errands for Zheng Lu over the past several days. This store secretly sells explosive enhancement pills that the Federation has expressly banned, Feng Yin said. The Zheng family originally ordered a blood rush pill. After taking it, a person can triple his physical functions for a short time. He pulled up a second transaction record. As you asked, I had people keep watch on the owner. What the Zheng family ultimately received wasn't a blood rush pill, but a higher-grade blood-burning, soul-rending pill. It provides a tenfold enhancement at the cost of continuously drawing on the user's life potential. The more power he expends, the faster his body will be drained. In the footage, the Zheng family's agent left immediately after receiving the sealed medicine case. Feng Yan's people had completely recorded the packaging, the serial numbers on the cash, and the handoff time. Feng Yin stored the original files separately from the processed identity comparisons. The former preserved timestamps and the recording device's signatures. The latter existed only to let me understand the evidence quickly. Even if the Zheng family denied everything later, the shop's accounts, the currency serial numbers, and the movements of the person collecting the drug would corroborate one another. The medicine cases look exactly the same? I asked. Exactly. The Zheng family tested the enhancement ingredients, but they won't conduct a destructive longevity test before using it. The blood-burning, soul-rending pill's tenfold effect is real. So is its price. In other words, we had not given Zheng Lu an ineffective fake. We had merely replaced the threefold banned drug he chose to purchase with a tenfold banned drug that would satisfy his desire even better. I was not surprised. Zheng Lu had first tried to murder me with the malfunctioning gravity cuffs, then issued a public threat after the matter was exposed. The freshman tournament allowed students in the same realm to fight head-on, making it his easiest opportunity to strike again. Does the shop owner know about the switch? I asked. Yes, and he accepted money from the Feng family. The Zhengs ran a routine test after taking possession. They'll only confirm that the enhancement is stronger than what they ordered. They won't return it. I saved the footage in the transaction chain. Don't submit this evidence to the university yet, I said. If the administration intercepts the pill in advance, Zhenglu will simply use another method. He already dared to arrange the cuffs at the tower entrance. One failure won't make him stop, but the raw evidence must be preserved somewhere outside the Feng family. Send me an anonymous, encrypted copy and set it to unlock automatically after the tournament. If I lose consciousness in the arena, Ma Mingjie will submit it. Feng Yin looked at me for several seconds before nodding. A plan that worked only if I won was no plan at all. I had to leave evidence behind for the possibility that I lost, or even died. This step was not meant to make Zheng Lu take medicine for no reason. He had chosen to buy a banned drug and intended to use it in the public arena to cripple me. I was simply allowing him to believe that the trump card in his hand was more reliable than it truly was. Watching my expression, Feng Yin asked directly, "You intend to kill him in the arena?" "Yes." "Then why go to so much trouble?" His voice was as calm as if we were discussing a training schedule. Replacing the pill with poison or having someone from the Feng family act off campus would both be simpler. Even if someone had to bear responsibility, my family could deal with it. No, my refusal was unequivocal. This is between Zheng Lu and me. You've already done enough by investigating the transaction and arranging the replacement. If the Feng family kills someone for me, what I owe will no longer be a minor favor. I was willing to exchange insights with Feng Yin because we understood each other in martial arts, not because I wanted to bind myself to any great clan's network of interests. More importantly, I needed everyone who considered using the same methods against me to see the result clearly. Zheng Lu would carry the banned pill into the arena himself and choose to attack my vital points. As long as he did not surrender and the referee did not terminate the match, I would counterattack within the limits permitted by the rules. Understood. Feng Yin closed the footage. If anything exceeds the plan, contact me immediately. 2 days later, the freshman tournament officially began. Large Otherblood Black Gold arenas had been installed across the undeveloped zone on campus. Invited alumni, local martial organizations, and small to mid-sized clans arrived one after another. Private spacecraft filled Field 13 almost to capacity. The name drawing the most attention in the campus announcements was General Yin, who had returned from the Starfield garrison. Even the members of the university board had made the rare decision to attend as a group. With so much attention focused on the event, every freshman wanted to leave a mark in the tournament. The participant handbook also clearly stated the boundaries. Real weapons and cultivation arts could be used at full strength. The match would end immediately if life monitoring reached the protective threshold, a participant surrendered, or the referee determined that someone could no longer continue. Anyone found using banned medicine, toxins, or external enhancement devices before a match would be disqualified and referred for investigation. The rules were clear enough. The real problem was that a blood-burning, soul-rending pill forcibly restored vital readings, causing the instruments to mistakenly believe for a long time that the user remained capable of fighting. Zheng Lu had selected the precise vulnerability that the referee system would struggle most to recognize in time. Meanwhile, news that I was still cultivating the Tianyuan art had spread across campus. People who had once regarded me as a dangerous opponent were openly discussing who could use the advantage of a primary cultivation art to defeat me. Zhan Yu, a specially admitted student at the Warrior College, even announced directly on the campus channel that if I chose the Warrior College, he would be the first to challenge me. I closed the discussion forum and inspected my saber once more. Others wanted to use me to make their names. Zheng Lu wanted to use the arena to kill me. This freshman tournament would let me settle everything at once. On the day of the tournament, every freshman who had entered the self-seeking realm stood in college formations outside the Otherblood Black Gold arenas. The black-red metal absorbed the surrounding light. Combat zones, each the size of several football fields, stood in orderly rows like altars. High-precision flying cameras hovered around the perimeter, while medical vehicles and protective mentors guarded every direction. A projection of Principal Cheng Ziwen appeared at the center of the grounds. The competition area verified everyone's identity and realm simultaneously. Students who had not stabilized the self-seeking realm would not be forced into the arena and could retain their normal course eligibility. Choosing to participate meant accepting real weapons, public recordings, and the possibility of injury. Ma Mingjie did not register to defend an arena for any combat college. His ability was better suited to resource and intelligence coordination. Forcing himself into a match merely to prove he had the courage to fight would only waste his body. We had discussed it in advance. He would remain in the spectator area and monitor my backup evidence and vital data. Chung Ziwen had once served as a federal general, and a prominent scar remained across his forehead. Without a long ceremonial speech, he went directly to this year's special purpose. This is more than a freshman ranking. It is also a selection. The outstanding among you will enter a Starfield military force under General Yin's command and participate in a real trial. You will face Warlord-tier starborn aliens, and you may earn battlefield knowledge and military merit resources that no book contains. The large screen then played vetted footage from the front lines. There were no graphic close-ups, only brief scenes of soldiers forming ranks in a low-gravity asteroid belt and a Warlord-tier alien crashing against their defensive line. The virtual spirit realm allowed a second attempt. A Starfield battlefield did not. This opportunity offered resources, but it was also a test. Those selected by the university had to maintain their judgment under pressure. They could not be people who only knew how to chase an attractive win rate in an arena. A brief disturbance passed through the formations. The martial entrance exam's safety systems limited casualties. The Starfield trial would be a genuine battlefield. The chance to personally kill aliens, earn military merit, and exchange it for rewards attracted every young martial artist. Chung Ziwen did not disclose the number of available positions. He told everyone to earn them through performance. The freshman tournament begins now. The first stage followed the rules from previous years. The warrior, assassin, heavy defense, and ranged colleges would hold internal arena defenses and select 3 representatives each. Because the command department had too few students, those who had reached the self-seeking realm could join any combat college that matched their personal path. Arena defense was not scored purely by counting consecutive victories. Referees would consider the opponent's strength, rest periods, and battle performance to prevent someone from farming weak challengers. At the end of each round, the defender could rest for up to 10 minutes. Anyone who voluntarily waived the rest period accepted responsibility for the resulting risks to injury and stamina. The teacher handling registration asked which side I chose. I found Zheng Lu in the crowd. He stood in the warrior college formation with his knuckle guards hanging at his waist. When he noticed me looking, he did not avert his eyes. Warrior college, I said. The moment my registration was complete, quiet discussion broke out among the warrior college students. Zhang Yu looked the most excited. He had already switched to a primary cultivation art and clearly regarded my continued use of the Tianyuan art as his greatest opening. Zheng Lu smiled more quietly. The internal selection used an arena defense format. Anyone who stepped into an empty arena alone became its defender. Students from the same college could challenge in sequence, with 3 representatives ultimately determined from successful defenses and match outcomes. Taking the arena first meant facing every challenger in peak condition. Normally, no one wanted the position. I did not wait. Carrying my saber, I stepped onto the Warrior College arena. Warrior College's first arena defender, Su Gu. The flying referee announced my name across the grounds. Many people turned to look. My martial entrance exam record, command department affiliation, and the rumors about the Tianyuan art combined to draw more attention to this arena defense than to the selections at the other colleges. I rotated my wrist and first familiarized myself with the hardness of the arena. Eyes from the aerial viewing area to the college formation settled here. Yet there was only one direction I truly needed to watch. Zheng Lu had not entered the arena. He was waiting for someone else to test my limits first. Su Gu, I'll fight you. Before anyone else could move, Zhang Yu activated Cloud Ladder Flight and leaped through the air into the arena. He drew an Otherblood black-gold sword, making no attempt to conceal the excitement in his eyes. This first fish was not the one I was waiting for. But to make the true target bite, I had to place the bait somewhere conspicuous enough. After landing at the far end of the arena, Zhang Yu first confirmed the challenge with the referee. His Cloud Ladder Flight changed direction twice before he touched down. It wasn't merely for show. It prevented me from attacking while he had yet to establish his footing. Once he landed, he immediately put me, himself, and the arena's edge on a single line, ensuring that he would still have enough buffer space if I knocked him backward. His words were confident, but his actions showed no contempt. His public profile showed that he, too, was a specially admitted student at the Warrior College. After entering the self-seeking realm, he had already completed his conversion to a primary cultivation art. According to the university's assessment alone, he and I, still registered as a Tianyuan art cultivator, occupied entirely different stages of access to resources. I've watched the recording of your martial entrance exam, Zhang Yu said. Killing above your realm in the body-tempering realm was impressive. But now everyone has entered the self-seeking realm. Old results can't compensate for the difference between cultivation arts. Which art did you switch to? I asked. The Warrior College's A-rank mountain firm art. It specializes in direct strength and physical defense. He did not conceal it. An official arena defense recorded the broad category of a cultivation art, while its specific routes remained protected. Mountain firm art was compatible with Azure Stone Jade Body. No wonder he dared to be the first person to test the difference between us. If defense is your greatest strength, use it completely, I warned him again. Make me use it first. Then let's try. The mechanical referee scanned our weapons, realms, and vital monitoring devices. A protective field rose around the arena, and the overhead screen displayed the countdown simultaneously. After completing the scans, the system required us to confirm whether our opponents could use every registered combat technique. Zhang Yu did not withdraw when he saw Lion Roar Myriad Tiger Saber. He merely placed Azure Stone Jade Body in the priority monitoring list so the referee could intervene more quickly if his defense collapsed. Zhang Yu repeatedly adjusted his grip on the sword. His breathing was faster than when he first entered the arena. He clearly cared greatly about the outcome. I did not immediately take an attacking stance. After Lion Roar Myriad Tiger Saber reached integrated mastery, its killing power had far surpassed what it possessed at the beginning of the martial entrance exam. Soul power in the self-seeking realm was also stronger than the power available in the body-tempering realm. If Zhang Yu continued judging me by the standard of a transitional cultivation art, the first strike might make him pay a price far beyond what this competition required. The countdown entered its final 10 seconds. Zhang Yu, I reminded him, the moment the match begins, use your strongest defensive technique. He frowned. Are you teaching me how to fight you? I'm preventing the medics from arriving too late. His expression darkened completely. Boos also rose from below the arena. Some people had clearly taken the warning as an insult. Zhang Yu moved his sword from his right hand to his left, then back again. He was not dismissing my warning. He was searching for a way to interrupt Lion Roar Myriad Tiger Saber. I won't stand still and wait for you to gather momentum, he said. When the countdown ends, I'll reach you first. Then you need defense even more. Once Lion Roar Myriad Tiger Saber reached integrated mastery, its force no longer needed to gather completely from a stationary posture. A breath, a footstep, or drawing the saber could all become its starting point. He was still judging its activation time from the martial entrance exam recording. His first step would already be wrong. I did not explain a second time. 10, 9, 8. Zhang Yu held the other blood black gold sword horizontally before him. Soul power began gathering in his legs. He intended to close the distance first and deny me the space to build full momentum. 5. I raised my eyes and deliberately released the killing intent I had kept suppressed. It was not a mental combat technique, but the genuine pressure I had formed after facing warlord-tier aliens in the martial entrance exam. Zhang Yu, the person closest to me, bore the brunt. His breathing abruptly stopped, and the hand holding his sword stiffened for an instant. He reacted quickly, turning the sword around. He drove its tip into the top of his own foot and used the pain to forcibly break his daze. Blood immediately seeped along the sole of his shoe. Zhang Yu did not pull out the sword. He used the blade pinning his foot to fix his center of gravity while forming the opening seal for Azure Stone Jade Body with both hands. That was more decisive than I had expected. He would rather injure himself first than let the pressure of my killing intent steal the beginning of the match. An opponent like this deserved to have my saber fall where he could be saved, not to be treated as background scenery for luring Zhonglu into the arena. The countdown reached 0. When Zhang Yu raised his head again, all contempt had disappeared from his eyes. I tightened my grip on the saber. Everything Zhonglu needed to see was ready. After regaining clarity, Zhang Yu did not rush in again. I waited until he re-established his defense before delivering the first strike. The soul power of Lion Roar Myriad Tiger Saber erupted along the blade, and a low bestial roar sounded within the saber light. The attack was far faster than Zhang Yu had predicted. With no room to evade, he could only activate his strongest defense as I had warned him before the match. The beast's roar struck his consciousness first. Zhang Yu had already steadied his mind through pain, yet the hand seal still slowed for the briefest instant. Cyan's soul power had only just covered his neck when the saber light reached his chest. Azure Stone Jade Body. Cyan's soul power instantly covered his entire body, forming a layer of heavy battle armor. The saber light struck it head-on. The cyan armor endured for only an instant before collapsing layer by layer from the point of contact. The remaining force continued into Zhang Yu and sent his entire body out of the arena. At the last moment, I angled the blade upward, avoiding his chest and abdomen and delivering the main impact to the heavily protected armor over his shoulder. Even so, the recoil traveled throughout his body through Azure Stone Jade body. He spat blood in midair and rolled several times after landing before finally stopping. The medics reached him immediately. That instant of protection from Azure Stone Jade body had given him the opportunity to adjust how he received the force. His injuries were serious, but his life was not in danger. The scan showed a fracture in his shoulder blade and temporary internal bleeding in his chest and abdomen from the impact. He was expected to require several days of treatment. If he had not activated Azure Stone Jade body in advance, the saber's force would have struck his unprotected torso directly. The result would have been far worse than being thrown out of the arena. My warning no longer sounded like arrogant pre-match boasting. Zhang Yu looked at the saber wound on his body, then raised his head toward me. You really were warning me? What else would I have been doing? What if I hadn't used Azure Stone Jade body? I looked toward the deep trench my saber had carved near the arena's edge. The medics would be doing more than this. Zhang Yu followed my gaze and stopped asking questions. Being defeated was already painful. Discovering that his opponent's apparently arrogant warning had genuinely been meant to save his life left him with no face-saving excuse at all. His expression looked more miserable than when the saber hit him. Then he simply closed his eyes and said nothing else. Warrior College Arena Defense, first match. Winner, Su Gu. After the mechanical announcement, the Warrior College formation was completely silent. Those who had planned to challenge began reassessing the situation. Two people still stepped toward registration, only to be pulled back by their companions. Not every retreat was cowardice. Without a new tactic or defense, repeating Zhang Yu's choice would only consume medical resources. I did not taunt them into the arena. There was only one person I needed to force out today, Zheng Lu. I had used no complex tactics and had not relied on my opponent making a mistake. One saber strike had shattered a specially admitted student's strongest defense. The difference between us was already clear enough. Zheng Lu stood at the back of the crowd, his face paler than before. He glanced down at his terminal, then quickly turned and left the formation. One of Feng Yan's people sent a short message. The seal on the blood-burning, soul-rending pill delivered to the Zheng family had been opened. The attachment was a status image from the sensor inside the medicine case. Once the seal broke, the automatic activation timer began. Given the pill's speed, Zheng Lu had to enter the arena within a very short time. Otherwise, the tenfold enhancement would begin consuming his lifespan before he even fought. That was the second reason I refused a rest period. It was not to make myself look strong. It was to deny him the opportunity to withdraw into the crowd under the excuse that the medicine had not yet taken effect. I did not pursue him. This was the result I wanted. The flying referee approached and asked how long I wished to rest after the defense. Under the rules, I could select between 1 and 10 minutes and receive a supplement to restore my stamina. No rest. Begin the next match immediately. That saber strike had been normal output. My stamina and soul power had barely decreased. I still needed to reacquaint myself with the saber's feel. The referee announced the second challenge. No one responded. Zhang Yu was a specially admitted student at the Warrior College, yet he had stopped only one strike. Without a new method, no one else could prove courage by entering the arena. They could only repeat the same result. I stood at the center of the arena and waited for my true opponent to return. Warrior College, please send the next challenger into the arena. The mechanical announcement sounded twice. No one responded. I used the wait to inspect my saber again. The earlier head-on collision with Azure Stone Jade body had curled one extremely fine section of the other blood black gold blade. If the same place absorbed another heavy impact, the saber might break against Zheng Lu's knuckle guards. I shifted my grip half an inch backward so the next contact would fall on an undamaged section of the blade, then marked the curled area for the weapons monitor at the edge of the arena. If the fracture expanded, the system would provide an early warning. An arena defender automatically advanced if no one challenged within 5 minutes. After the countdown began, many Warrior College students looked unhappy, but no one was willing to use his own injuries to verify the difference Zhang Yu had already proven. I did not care about the college's representative slots. The first strike had been deliberately heavy, so Zheng Lu would reassess the threat. If he believed I would enter a military trial after the freshman tournament and leave the campus where he could exert influence, He had to act today. The blood-burning, soul-rending pill would multiply his physical capabilities tenfold. It would also give him the illusion that his strength had surpassed mine. He would not abandon this opportunity. With only 1 minute left in the countdown, the crowd at the back finally parted to create a path. Zhonglu had left the formation for less than 5 minutes, but he returned with what seemed like an entirely different body. Ordinary spectators saw only his soaring strength. From the intervals between breaths, I could tell that the drug's effect was still climbing toward its peak. He had deliberately waited until the final minute to preserve the pill's strongest phase for the match and to make me believe, during the wait, that he would not appear. Zhonglu had returned. He put on his knuckle guards. His steps were much heavier than before he left. Blood vessels bulged abnormally beneath his skin. His breathing carried the distinct heated scent of medicine, and his pupils were in a state of extreme excitement. The tenfold enhancement had even caused him to misjudge his own size. His engorged muscles made the inner rings of the knuckle guards bite into his skin, and blood seeped out every time he clenched his fists. The pain did not make him wary. Under the drug's stimulation, he took it as proof that power filled his body. I adjusted my position so his blood and the medicinal coating on his knuckle guards would have no opportunity to contact one of my wounds at the same time. As he passed in front of me, his right index finger rubbed lightly along the inner edge of one knuckle guard. The movement was tiny, like someone checking the fit of a weapon, but I smelled a trace of bitterness that belonged to neither metal nor the pill. The blood-burning, soul-rending pill was not his only preparation. The pill had already begun taking effect. "Sugu, I challenge you." "Accepted." I did not ask why his condition was abnormal. Calling it out before the match might prompt the referee to suspend proceedings for an investigation. Zhonglu might also surrender immediately, leaving every piece of evidence as no more than suspicion. I needed him to confirm the challenge aloud and let the system lock the record of our match. He leaped into the arena and deliberately drove downward before landing. With a thunderous crash, his feet smashed a deep crater into the durable other blood black gold. Spectators below who had not known Zhonglu's name were immediately drawn to that display of strength. The mechanical referee rescanned our vital signs. Zhonglu's readings were abnormally high, but they did not trigger a disqualification warning. The blood-burning, soul-rending pill had clearly evaded the standard pre-match examination. Its price would become visible only after continued exertion. On my personal terminal, I voluntarily checked, "Request preservation of complete in-match physiological records." A confirmation appeared in the referee system. Zhonglu saw it, sneered, and checked his agreement as well. He believed the tenfold enhancement would become evidence that he had crushed me. What I needed was a drug effect curve that no one could delete afterward. He knocked the knuckle guards together, sending sparks from his fists. "Zhang, you couldn't even withstand one strike from me," I said. "Why do you think you can?" As expected, Zhonglu raised both fists, deliberately displaying his swollen muscles and the deep crater beneath his feet to the cameras. "Because the person I am now isn't on the same level as that trash." He had personally claimed his abnormal state as his own strength. His voice, the footage, and his vital data entered the arena record together, making it far more difficult for him to explain the pill later as something he had taken unknowingly. "Don't surrender too quickly. That would be boring." "Don't worry." I looked at him. "I won't." We both smiled. Yu Xiao was not the human referee for this arena. A mechanical system handled most of the on-site process, with protective mentors stationed around the perimeter. The pre-match vital readings had not crossed any thresholds, so they had no procedural grounds to reject the challenge. I still memorized the position of the nearest protective mentor. If the plan went wrong, which direction I used to withdraw and who could cut through the protective field fastest might determine whether I lived. The difference was that Zhonglu believed he finally possessed the power to kill me, and I had been waiting for him to carry that power into the arena himself. After the battle countdown began, the drug's power in Zhonglu's body continued to rise. My personal terminal could not display an opponent's complete data, but the arena's public monitoring system could capture vital fluctuations. His heart rate had already exceeded the safe limit for an ordinary self-seeking realm martial artist, while his muscle density, reaction speed, and soul power output all soared at once. The tenfold enhancement promised by the blood-burning, soul-rending pill was not false advertising. Zhonglu stood 30 feet away, looking as though his entire body had been stuffed into a skin that was too small. Blood vessels throbbed beneath the surface. Every breath released a stream of scorching air, and even the other blood black gold arena sank slightly beneath his feet. "Sugu." He lowered his voice. "From the martial entrance exam until now, You stole my championship, destroyed my people, and humiliated me in public. Today, we settle every account. Was fastening malfunctioning gravity cuffs onto me another way you settled accounts? He did not admit it. He simply slammed his knuckle guards together. The fact that you came back alive means you got lucky. Those words were enough. The countdown reached 0. Zhonglu attacked first. The tenfold increase in physical capability transformed an ordinary rush into a cannonball charge, with shallow craters exploding under each footfall. He used the Zheng family's boxing art, one fist leading and the other trailing. Every attack targeted my throat, heart, or temple. Not one was a probe. Before the first fist even reached me, the pressure of displaced air stung my eyes. A tenfold enhancement did not simply make every movement 10 times faster. When bones, muscles, neural responses, and soul power output rose together, even an ordinary boxing rout gained the destructive power of a combat technique. I could not block with my arms. If the medicinal coating on the knuckle guards broke my skin, neural paralysis might slow my next dodge by half a beat. I changed rhythm with variable frequency step and retreated through the shadows of his fists. Zheng Lu's speed and strength had undeniably increased, but his technique had not grown with them. His body charged too quickly for his center of gravity to recover. After he threw a punch, the tenfold inertia magnified what would have been a brief opening. As long as I did not trade blows with him head-on, the stronger the drug became, the faster he would lose control. I avoided more than a dozen punches without immediately counterattacking. The 6th tore my uniform without touching skin. The 9th struck the arena, sending broken metal across my cheek. The pressure from the 12th made my old injury ache. I was not observing without paying a price. With every additional exchange, the chances of contact with the toxin and a direct mistake increased. But until I knew exactly how much the tenfold inertia delayed his recovery movements, recklessly entering close range could make my first failed control attempt my last. A nearly transparent film remained along the edges of the knuckle guards. When the first punch brushed my clothing, a faint bitterness entered the air. Zhonglu had not only consumed a banned pill, he had also treated his weapons with something. He had used only a small amount, and the routine pre-match scan had failed to identify it. Once the knuckle guards broke the skin, the effect most likely would not kill directly. It would create a moment of paralysis and open the way for the next heavy strike. Is dodging all you can do? Zhonglu continuously accelerated and drove me toward the arena's edge. Spectators below could see only the shadows of his fists forcing me backward. Some began to believe that tenfold strength had already decided the outcome. But I was not waiting for him to exhaust himself. I needed to confirm the knuckle guard's attack range, his maximum reaction after taking the drug, and which direction he habitually protected during a full-force pursuit. I had already obtained the first pieces of information. His final combination provided the last answer. Zhonglu used his right fist to seal the route by which I might cut inward, while his left drove straight for my chest. I deliberately slowed my step frequency by half a beat. Judging that I could not evade in time, he pressed his entire body forward behind the left fist. When the knuckle guard was less than a hand's breadth from my uniform, I connected the pause in variable frequency step to flash step and vanished directly from his line of sight. Zhonglu tried to turn, but the tenfold inertia carried his body another half step forward. That half step was enough. I appeared behind and to his side, clamped my left hand around his throat, and drove my right knee into his lower back, lifting his entire body off the ground. Then, borrowing his own forward momentum, I drove his head and shoulder toward the edge of the arena. Zhonglu forcibly twisted his waist in midair and swept his left fist backward toward my temple. I ducked. The knuckle guard passed through the ends of my hair, and centrifugal force flung several drops of the medicinal film onto the arena, where they immediately left faint marks of corrosion. Only then did the cameras capture physical evidence of the toxin. Boom. Spiderweb cracks spread across the other blood-black gold. Zhonglu's arms continued struggling, but the knuckle guards could not reach my body. I used a joint lock to control his spine and right shoulder. If he kept forcing his strength outward, his own joint would dislocate first. Tenfold enhancement, I said beside his ear. Did you think I didn't know about the blood-burning, soul-rending pill? Zhonglu's pupils contracted violently. You bought the drug yourself, and you treated the knuckle guards yourself. What a shame. Trash multiplied by 10 is still just trash, only harder to control. I did not say that to make him lose his reason. On the contrary, I needed to see how he reacted after hearing the pill's name. If he immediately denied it, there might still be an intermediary in the collection chain. If he showed instinctive fear, It meant he had known before swallowing the pill that it was no ordinary enhancement medicine. Zheng Lu's expression gave me the answer. For the first time, genuine terror appeared on the face that had been filled with rage. After Zheng Lu heard the pill's name, his struggles abruptly became more violent. He had clearly realized that I had monitored the transaction from the beginning. But his tenfold strength did not help him escape. It only made the locked joints bear a greater opposing force. "I, sir." He tried to call out his surrender, but the hand clamped around his throat reduced his voice to broken air. His fingers also tried to tap the arena. Under the rules, 3 consecutive, unmistakable taps could replace a verbal surrender. I adjusted the joint lock and pinned both arms beneath his body. This was a choice I made deliberately. The referee system did not force me into it, and it was not an accident. I knew it would leave me with responsibility. I gave him no opportunity to speak. After the martial entrance exam, he had driven rumors attacking the legitimacy of my results. After I entered the university, he used Qian Hao and Li Qiu to lock self-increasing gravity cuffs around my wrists. Those were not ordinary disputes between classmates. They were 2 separate attacks aimed at my future and my life. If I allowed him to leave today, the Zheng family would only use his arena defeat as the reason for its next retaliation. I released my right hand, gathering soul power over my fist. The first punch struck his heart. The dull impact passed through Zheng Lu's body and even depressed the arena beneath him. His vital readings dropped instantly. A warning lit on the mechanical referee, but before the data reached the termination line, it rapidly recovered. The blood-burning, soul-rending pill drew from his life potential and forcibly dragged his collapsing body back. Zheng Lu opened his eyes again. The malice from the beginning was gone, leaving only the instinct to survive. His lips opened and closed with desperate force. He was still trying to surrender. I remembered Qian Hao and Li Qiu waiting at the tower entrance to see whether I would be carried out after the gravity cuffs rose to 20-fold. The second punch struck his throat. His vocal cords and speech structures were damaged on the spot. Even if I released him, Zheng Lu could produce only indistinct breathy sounds. "You gave me no opportunity to explain when you spread the rumors. When you locked those cuffs, you had no intention of listening if I called for help either." I said nothing else unnecessary. The heavy strikes that followed concentrated on the vital points of his chest and abdomen. Each drove his vital readings toward the termination line. At the last instant, the pill consumed more of his potential and raised them again. An ordinary martial artist would have lost the ability to continue long ago, but the public monitoring system kept reporting that he remained in a recoverable state. The mechanical referee operated according to vital thresholds. It had received neither a valid surrender nor a compulsory termination trigger. The human protective mentor had already begun moving toward the arena, but the system's repeated notification that vital values continue to recover delayed his decision. Under the current rules, if he intervened early, Zheng Lu's side could later appeal that the match had been terminated incorrectly. I saw his hesitation and did not make the more lenient choice for him. The noise below the arena gradually disappeared. Everyone could see Zheng Lu's appearance deteriorating at terrifying speed. His black hair began losing its color, and his full muscles withered inward. Every recovery purchased by tenfold strength was consuming years he should have possessed in the future. The referee system finally sounded continuous alarms. Abnormal life decay detected. Rechecking participants' drug status. The knuckle guard slipped from Zheng Lu's hands. Under the arena's scanning light, the transparent medicinal film revealed an abnormal color, and a weapons violation warning appeared. Of the 2 trump cards he had brought into the arena, one had drained his body dry. The other had been recorded in public without ever touching me. The final recovery of his vital signs lasted less than 1 second. The monitoring curve dropped to 0. Before the pill's restorative force vanished completely, Zheng Lu looked at me one final time. There was no longer any hatred in his eyes, only incomprehension. He could not understand why, after he bought a banned drug and coated his weapons with poison, those same things had instead pushed him toward death. I took no pleasure from it. I merely confirmed that a threat which had persisted for a long time would never reach for me from behind again. The mechanical referee's protective field forcibly inserted itself between us. I withdrew my fist and allowed the system to push me back. The protective mentor leaped into the arena at the same moment. First, he controlled my hands where they could remain visible and confirmed that I would not continue attacking. Only then did he allow the medics to approach Zheng Lu. This was standard procedure after a death. Victory and defeat no longer mattered. The first priorities were preventing a second conflict and preserving evidence. Zheng Lu lay in the cratered arena and never drew another breath. After Zheng Lu died, the competition area became so quiet that only the referee alarm remained. His hair was almost completely white, and the blood-burning, soul-rending pill had drained his body into a withered shell. The medics entered the arena and first confirmed the absence of a heartbeat and brain activity. They then sealed the remaining drug and the neural paralytic on the surfaces of his knuckle guards as evidence. I stepped down from the arena but did not leave the scene. A hovercraft descended rapidly from high above. Before its door had fully opened, a disheveled man in a suit rushed out. He gathered Zheng Lu's body into his arms, confirmed there were no signs of life, then turned and roared at me. "You killed the Zheng family's young heir, and you intend to act as though nothing happened?" The identity projection identified him as Zheng Sheng, the Zheng family's local representative and one of Zheng Lu's relatives. I didn't run. I pointed at the arena defense system, which was still counting time. Under the rules, I've completed 2 matches. After arrest, I can continue accepting challenges. Every Warrior College student in the area fell silent at those words. Clearly, no one intended to enter the arena after watching a death match. I remained at the scene not because I still wanted to defend the arena. Leaving would remove the chain of evidence from my sight during its most critical period and could be interpreted as an attempt to evade review. The drug, the knuckle guards, the vital curves, and the complete recording all had to be sealed on site. Zheng Sheng shook with rage. He was trying to surrender. You gripped his throat and destroyed his vocal cords, so he couldn't even say the words. The referee monitored his vital signs throughout the match, I said. He did not make a valid surrender, and the system continuously judged him capable of recovery. I counterattacked under the arena rules. Which rule did I violate? Several university hovercraft landed in succession. Principal Cheng Ziwen, General Yin, and 5 members of the university board entered the scene one after another. Staff projected the complete vital curves, traces of the banned drug, and the toxin scan from the knuckle guards into the air. After reviewing the report, General Yin gave the preliminary conclusion directly. Zheng Lu consumed a federally banned blood-burning, soul-rending pill and used a neural paralytic on his weapons. His death resulted from the combined effects of external strikes and the pill's continuous consumption of his life. He looked at me. If you did not know about the drug in advance, then this was a death caused by a rule-breaking participant during ordinary combat. Conversely, if you knew the drug's effects and deliberately exploited its recovery mechanism to continue killing him, the nature of the matter changes completely. General Yin did not excuse me with a platitude about accidents in the arena. He placed both possibilities in the public record at once, effectively telling me that identity, results, and talent could not outrank evidence. Everyone around us waited for my answer. I showed exactly the right amount of surprise. He took a drug? His physical abilities improved that much, and he was still so weak. How could I possibly have guessed? Those words nearly drove Zheng Sheng mad. You're lying. You precisely sealed off his voice because you already knew the drug would restore him. How could anything be that coincidental? The board members did not immediately express a position. Zheng Lu's violations were facts, but my sequence of attacks also contained obvious reasons for suspicion. The university had recently expanded its cooperation with several great clans. Favoring either side could create trouble afterward. As the 2 sides reached an impasse, Mentor Lan Qing stepped out of the principal's vehicle. If everyone here trusts me, I will take responsibility for investigating this matter. The 5 board members exchanged opinions and quickly agreed. Lan Qing's reputation at the university was high enough that, with him presiding, at least no one could immediately accuse the determination process of unfairness. He neither declared me blameless on the spot nor accepted Zheng Sheng's characterization of premeditated murder. Instead, he proposed 3 immediate measures: freeze both sides' raw arena data, conduct an independent pharmacological examination of Zheng Lu's body, and include the malfunctioning gravity cuff incident and the pre-match transaction records in the motive investigation. The more complete the procedure, the harder it would be for either side to use its status to rewrite the result. Suspend the Warrior College selection for now, Lan Qing said. The other colleges will continue. Sugu will be held temporarily until I complete my questioning. 2 members of campus security approached. They did not use restraints, only asked me to board a transport vehicle. Before getting in, I looked back at Feng Yan. He did not approach. He merely showed me a line of text on his terminal. The raw transaction evidence remains secure. Automatic unlocking is operating normally. Submit it whenever necessary. I shook my head slightly. Submitting it now would prove that Zheng Lu purchased a banned drug, but it would also expose our role in replacing the pill. Unless the investigation began departing from the facts, that evidence should remain the final insurance, not the first card played. I followed the security officers away from the arena. Zheng Lu was dead. The threat concealed at my side had been removed. Now it was my turn to bear the price that my plan had always risked bringing. The temporary holding location was a sealed private training room. No one came to question me from afternoon until evening. I circulated the Tianyuan art to recover from the battle while reviewing every detail they might ask about. I could not admit that I had known about the pill in advance, nor would the transaction footage obtained by Feng Yan be released now. Otherwise, the replacement would drag both him and the Feng family into the matter. That was not an excuse that allowed me a clear conscience. I had known the drug's effects beforehand, and I had deliberately used the referee system's inability to recognize the consumption of lifespan in time. Even if the university ultimately could not prove it, the facts would not change. I could bear disciplinary action, investigation, and retaliation from the Zheng family. What I could not do was alter any existing arena record merely to make myself appear innocent. As for why I gripped his throat and attacked his vocal cords, I could explain them as efforts to prevent an opponent from using breath and spoken commands. They were both effective choices in close-range control. The truly difficult part to explain was the continuous assault. The mechanical referee's failure to terminate the match provided the most direct procedural basis. Zheng Lu's use of a paralytic toxin and a banned pill also gave my counterattack a stronger claim of self-defense. As long as no one used a method capable of directly reading memories, the existing evidence was insufficient to prove premeditation. The training room door finally opened. Lan Qing was not the only person who entered. Principal Cheng Ziwen and General Yin followed behind him. The three-person lineup put me on guard. Cheng Ziwen first ordered the security system to remove the room's external isolation, then designated the conversation for archival under the highest permissions. Lan Qing pulled up the soul power curve from my match. He skipped past every image of Zheng Lu's death and finally stopped at the points where I switched among warrior, assassin, and control paths. They had not forgotten the dead man. They had already handed that issue to evidence and procedure. They had come personally to confirm something else that could affect the rest of my life even more. Lan Qing did not ask about Zheng Lu or look at the battle statement I had prepared. He strode up and placed one hand on my shoulder. Su Gu, is the cultivation art you're practicing truly the Tianyuan art? For a moment, I failed to react. The three of you didn't come here to investigate Zheng Lu's death? Lan Qing turned to his two former students. Who is Zheng Lu? Is he important? General Yin coughed. Teacher, he's the student who died under Su Gu's fists several hours ago. So his name was Zheng Lu. Lan Qing glanced at the investigation report. He consumed a banned drug, used a toxin, and still lost this badly in direct combat. Determine responsibility for his death according to the rules and evidence. There is no need to destroy one of the university's real students over someone like that. His words were exceptionally direct. Lan Qing then told me that Zheng Lu's case would receive a complete investigation. Federal Martial Investigation Authorities would trace the banned drug's source, while Qian Hao, Li Qiu, and the malfunctioning gravity cuffs would be incorporated into the motive evidence. My eligibility for the tournament would be restored temporarily, and the university would announce the final disciplinary decision separately. Having dealt with that in one statement, he returned to the cultivation art. Answer me. Are you cultivating the Tianyuan art or not? I am. Impossible. Cheng Ziwen stared at my soul power fluctuations. The Tianyuan art's soul power isn't of this quality, and its professional branches cannot switch this smoothly during battle. I remained silent for a moment, knowing that further concealment would only invite a deeper examination. The foundation truly is the Tianyuan art. But after every real battle, I adjust part of its circulation based on the combat techniques I used and my body's feedback. Who conducts the safety verification for you? Cheng Ziwen asked. First, I focus on one branch through breathing and static movements. Then I confirm it through low-intensity training. Only after that do I use it in real combat. Each time, I alter only the portions I can clearly sense. In other words, no one. No one. Their expressions did not relax merely because my process had multiple steps. A process could reduce the risk. It could not replace the protection of a martial artist in a higher realm. I've already modified the current version many times. All three expressions changed at once. Lan Qing had me sit and complete one full circulation on the spot. He sensed it remotely with soul power, never forcing his way into my meridians, and recorded only the points where each branch began, intersected, and returned. The warrior, assassin, heavy defense, and ranged paths lit in sequence within the main loop without conflicting with one another. When the circulation reached the ranged branch, the old injury in my chest produced the slightest delay in the soul power. Lan Qing immediately told me to slow down. He did not demand that I force out a complete demonstration merely because the cultivation art was rare. Stop there, he said. First make sure the person is safe. Then we can discuss the art. Those words loosened some of the vigilance that had kept me tense. When the circulation ended, the hand Lan Qing held against my shoulder trembled slightly. This isn't a handful of adjustments to the Tianyuan art. You're using it as a draft to create an entirely new cultivation art. Cheng Ziwen first explained what modifying a cultivation art meant. Humans could not engrave complete knowledge into their bloodlines as certain starborn alien species could. Every cultivation art that could be practiced stably came either from a powerful expert's lifetime of experimentation or the combined work of several generations within a family. To make them usable by people with different constitutions, publicly available arts deliberately sacrificed some individual compatibility. A martial artist could adjust breathing rhythm and a few force generation habits, but could not alter the main circulation at will. One wrong soul power route could damage the meridians at best and collapse the entire circulation at worst. So my situation is dangerous? I asked. Precisely the opposite. Lan Qing shook his head. Your routes are not yet complete, but they are exceptionally stable. Several professional branches all return to the same core. They do not compete for control of the body. But stability does not mean permanent safety, he added. You still contain a limited number of paths. In the future, adding a new combat technique may create only one more branch, or it may destroy the entire main loop. Before verification, you must not treat growth through breathing as an all-purpose answer that lets you ignore your body's conditions. I recorded that boundary. My ability could add experience to combat techniques I had already learned and was actively performing or clearly focusing on. It could not fill in an inheritance that did not exist, nor could it make injured meridians bear limitless soul power from nothing. The cultivation art had grown because I had verified every change through real combat and physical feedback. These don't look like changes produced through blind luck, Lan Qing said. It looks more like a new cultivation art that is still growing. General Yin added that even when a major organization customized a cultivation art for an heir, it had to retain a powerful expert capable of crossing the Star Sea as a long-term sparring partner. That expert had to observe every circulation and every battle, then use vast resources to test whether each modification was safe. Without a mentor protecting me, I had allowed the art to update continuously through real combat. That far exceeded their understanding of an ordinary genius. If this abnormality became known, it would bring far more than praise. Other organizations would investigate the art's origin and might regard me as a research subject that could be replicated. With my current strength, I could not stop a genuinely powerful family or institution from applying pressure. Until the cultivation art is complete, we have to conceal it, Lan Qing decided. Cheng Ziwen would modify my student file so it no longer publicly showed that I was still cultivating a transitional art. The raw records from several campus battles would not be destroyed, but high-precision data involving my soul power routes would be moved into restricted archives. Ordinary mentors and external personnel would see only the match footage and results. We also needed one consistent public origin. Cheng Ziwen made me recite the account personally. General Yin had obtained the cultivation art during a deep exploration of the virtual spirit realm. I received his instruction after entering the university, and the art's exact grade and contents were classified because they involved a military exploration. The three of them removed, sentence by sentence, every detail that would create new questions until only a framework of facts that could remain consistent for years was left. This was protection, not permission for me to lie freely in other matters. The university would retain the raw soul power data. If the cultivation art went out of control, authorized doctors could access it for treatment. General Yin was willing to state that he had acquired a special cultivation art while exploring the depths of the virtual spirit realm, judged it compatible with me, and taught it to me privately. That account explained why the art did not appear in a public catalog and forced anyone investigating it to first weigh the influence of a federal general. This will cause you trouble, I said. Still better than letting someone drag you away and cut you into slices. General Yin waved a hand. Once you have the ability to protect what belongs to you, you can decide how much to reveal. I solemnly thanked all three of them. Lan Qing then asked whether I had chosen the command department because I wanted access to knowledge from more professions so I could continue integrating different paths into the new art. Yes, the command department's mixed training did not mean that I had abandoned martial arts. It was the road I had to take. Only by understanding more professions could I supply the material my cultivation art needed to continue growing. Lanqing nodded. Since it is no longer the original Tianyuan art, it should have a new name. I thought of the professional branches that continuously increased inside it. They were not mutually exclusive fragments. They grew from one core and returned to that same core. If I continued down this road, the art's future capacity would certainly extend far beyond these few current variations. Myriad aspects return to the origin, while Tianyuan remains the foundation. It will be called the Myriad Aspect Tianyuan art. The name was not a declaration that the cultivation art had already reached perfection. Myriad Aspect represented its ability to contain different professional paths, while Tianyuan preserved the root of the original main loop. At this stage, it was merely a stable, operational prototype. If a future route damaged its core, I would still have to roll back the change instead of forcing an expansion for the sake of the name. Lanqing included that explanation in the classified archive so that people in the future would not misread new cultivation art as a mature, completed inheritance. Lanqing repeated the name and smiled. Good. From today forward, your student file and the account maintained by the three of us will all use Myriad Aspect Tianyuan art. As for how far it ultimately goes, you will finish writing it yourself. Once we settled the public account of my cultivation art, I raised another matter with Cheng Ziwen. Students who perform exceptionally in the freshman tournament can make one reasonable request of the university. Are 2 Warrior College arena defenses enough to exchange for another opportunity to enter the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower? Only 24 hours on catalog level 50 had already produced obvious growth in the Myriad Aspect Tianyuan art. If I could enter again, especially if I could truly connect the combat techniques I had yet to test, the resulting improvement would matter far more than an ordinary reward. Cheng Ziwen did not agree immediately. Judging solely from your record, of course it's enough, he said. The problem is that you just killed Zheng Lu in a public arena. Even if the investigation concludes that he used a banned drug and a toxin, the board will still believe the incident damaged the university's cooperation with the great clans. The 1,000-floor Marshall Tower was never going to open repeatedly for the same freshmen in such a short period. If we submit the application now, they will reject it. I had expected that result. By choosing to eliminate Zheng Lu, I also chose to bear the consequences to my reputation and resources. Still, I could not avoid regret when I thought of the original manuals inside the tower that I had not finished reading. When Cheng Ziwen saw that I did not argue, his tone suddenly shifted. That doesn't mean there's no solution at all. I looked up. Take first place among this year's freshmen, he said, enunciating every word. And it must be a first place no one can question. Not through the luck of the draw, not by a narrow victory, and without leaving spectators an excuse that you would have lost under different conditions. Your record must be so overwhelming that the board, no matter how reluctant, can find no reason to refuse. An ordinary first place required only winning until the end. An undisputed first required making the distance between me and every potential opponent unmistakably clear. If I do that, I can enter the tower again. I guarantee it in my capacity as principal. Good. I extended my hand. A gentleman's word. Cheng Ziwen struck his palm against mine. Is as swift as a whip on a racing horse. Lanqing reminded me that the true obstacle was not the 12 college representatives, but Feng Yan. You've just been investigated over a death, he added. Don't interpret undisputed to mean you must humiliate every opponent. What will truly force the board to reverse its decision is displaying a stable difference under the same rules, not causing a second accident. I understood what he meant. Against Zheng Lu, I had chosen to kill the threat. Against ordinary competitors, I had to control my strength within the boundaries of victory and defeat. Using the same methods in both kinds of battle would not be decisiveness. It would be a loss of control. The Feng family's threefold origin art had been individually adjusted by the family's experts. Its starting point was far above the Myriad Aspect Tianyuan art, which used a transitional art as its foundation. Feng Yan's rank ability could also develop wind into lightning, and its true upper limit had yet to reveal itself fully. Under arena rules, without pushing each other to the point of life and death, you currently have no better than even odds, Lanqing said. Crushing him is almost impossible. Then I'll fight him first and see. I did not ask them to continue analyzing Feng Yan. Inside the tower, I had already seen his movement palm techniques, and ability control. He had watched me train as well, but did not know exactly how many A-rank techniques I had mastered. Both sides had incomplete information. A comparison on paper was meaningless. Before I left the training room, Chung Ziwen reconfirmed that my tournament eligibility had been restored. The detailed investigation into Zheng Lu's death would continue, but the university could not strip me of the right to participate before reaching a conclusion. The final stage is tomorrow, he said. You have only one chance. One is enough. By the time I walked out of the sealed area, night had fallen. I did not return to my dorm to celebrate the cultivation art receiving a formal name. I went directly to the training grounds and broke down every possible form of multi-person coordination I might face the next day. The training system could not fully simulate 12 college representatives, so I reassigned 2,000 training dummies by profession. The first 3 rows became heavy defense fighters. Targets in the rear fired only when gaps appeared in the defensive line, while moving targets simulated assassins entering from the edges of my vision. In the first round, I cut through the front line in 3 seconds, only to be marked by 6 attacks from the rear at once. In the second, I pursued the ranged fighters first, and the moving targets sealed my retreat from behind. Not until the 7th round did I abandon the idea of defeating 12 people and replace it with making 12 people obstruct one another. A heavy defender's shield could block ranged fire, a warrior's long weapon could restrict an assassin's route, and a tracking attack could turn around and pressure the caster's teammates. Their numbers were an advantage, but they were also a spatial cost the entire group had to bear. The 12 college representatives would compensate for one another's professional weaknesses. Feng Yin was an entirely different opponent. To ensure that no one could question the result, simply winning would not be enough. I had to control how much I revealed while making the difference visible to everyone. The university website published its preliminary decision the next morning. The announcement found that Zheng Lu had used a blood-burning, soul-rending pill and a neural paralytic in the arena, and classified his death as an accidental result caused by competing in violation of the rules. My tournament eligibility was restored, though the university would still discipline me for failing to control the damage in time. The exact punishment would be announced after the freshman tournament. The announcement did not disclose every detail of the investigation into Qian Hao, Li Qiu, and the malfunctioning cuffs. It stated only that the related malicious incidents had been consolidated into the same case. This preserved the evidence while preventing either side from continuing to weaponize public opinion before a conclusion was reached. As I reached the competition area, Chung Ziwen sent me a message. Application to re-enter the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower. Unanimously rejected by the university board. Reason: repeated access within a short period violates established policy, and you remain within a disciplinary period. As we agreed yesterday, let your record speak from here. There had never been any suspense about the result, but it made today's objective clearer. The rejection included a complete vote number. This was not an administrative delay that Chung Ziwen could privately bypass. Only a new fact substantial enough to reopen board review could place the application on the agenda again. An ordinary victory would not be a new fact. Overwhelming every representative in this year's class would. The internal college selections were complete. The warrior, assassin, heavy defense, and ranged colleges had each produced 3 representatives. All 12 stood on the central arena. Their records appeared on the overhead screen. Some had won all 3 matches. Some had withdrawn due to injury after several consecutive defenses, and others had advanced through referee decisions based on professional coordination. The university had not selected the 12 names arbitrarily. Each position was backed by 1 or more genuine battles. That meant challenging them all at once would question not only 12 individuals, but the completed selection results of 4 colleges in public. Special admission students including Xiao Junjian, Wu Zhan, and Lu Guang stood among them. After yesterday's 2 matches, they watched me far more cautiously than they had during our first class. Feng Yin was not in the line of 12. No one had been willing to challenge him while he defended an arena for the Assassin College. The college could only list him separately as a competitor beyond the normal representatives level, then select 3 other representatives. Therefore, today's real task was to determine 12 advancement slots and 1 additional person entering the final stage. The university had already released a unified account of my cultivation art. My public file no longer displayed the Tianyuan art, but a myriad aspect Tianyuan art absent from any public catalog. In a public interview, General Yin also confirmed that it was a special cultivation art he had acquired through deep exploration of the virtual spirit realm and later passed to me. I had checked the public page. It listed only special composite path and a classification number. It fabricated no grade, inheritance period, or specific effects. The fewer details and explanation contained, the fewer lies it would require us to maintain in the future. People in the comments were already comparing frames from yesterday's battle, trying to determine when I had switched cultivation arts. The university disabled downloads of high-precision soul power data without deleting ordinary video. My growth remained visible, but the core routes could no longer be copied freely. The campus discussion about my transitional cultivation art rapidly transformed into a different kind of speculation. Some believed General Yin had influenced the determination of Zhang Lu's death. Others complained that I had deliberately concealed my strength. I did not enter the comments to argue. General Yin had already taken responsibility for the public declaration of the art's origin. Additional explanations would only create contradictory details. As for whether the tournament favored me, today's raw recordings and vital monitoring would provide a longer-lasting answer than online quarrels. For now, none of that mattered. I walked to the central arena. All 12 representatives turned toward me at once. The human referee had already arrived above the combat zone. It was Yu Xiao. When he saw me, he sighed first. "You finally made it. Just finish today's fights according to normal procedure. Don't get anyone else killed." "I'll try." "I'll try" is exactly what I was afraid of hearing. Yu Xiao raised a hand and opened the temporary rules. Because my warrior college selection had been interrupted, the university would allow me to challenge any one of the 12 representatives. If I won, I would replace that person and enter the elimination stage. Under the normal process, I needed only to select the opponent I was most confident of beating. But such a victory would leave 11 untested assumptions. I looked at the 12 people standing in formation opposite me. They were not threats like Zhang Lu that had to be removed. If this challenge became official, I needed to break their formation and judgment. I could not again trade against the limits of vital monitoring for victory. I preset my saber's attack mode to referee protection priority, permitting the system to forcibly deflect the blade before it judged that an irreversible injury would occur. Yesterday, Cheng Ziwen had demanded a first place no one could question. Today, I would begin here. After explaining the rules, Yu Xiao asked whom I chose. People outside the arena immediately called out the names Xiao Junjian, Wu Zhen, and Lu Guang, speculating which representative I would target for replacement. All 12 tightened their grips on their weapons and waited for my decision. "I'd like to confirm one rule first," I said. "Ask, can I challenge all of them at once?" Yu Xiao thought he had misheard. "Say that again." Me alone against all 12. The area surrounding the arena fell silent. Then every voice erupted at once. The expressions of all 12 representatives changed completely. Being selected for a duel would mean only that I considered that person the best target to replace. Challenging them simultaneously amounted to declaring in public that even together, they were not worthy of being handled one match at a time. Xiao Junjian asked coldly, "Su Gu, are you certain this is a challenge and not deliberate humiliation?" "You can consider it an additional team assessment arranged by the university," I said. "If I lose, I withdraw from the freshman tournament. If you lose, all 12 representative slots remain yours, and I merely enter the next stage as an additional competitor." "Add one more term," Xiao Junjian said. "Don't treat us like 12 patients who need your care during the match. If this is a team fight, allow us to bear ordinary injuries." "Agreed." Wu Zhen raised his bow. "Your condition is that you withdraw if you lose." "What's ours?" "If you win, I will publicly admit that my judgment in issuing today's challenge was wrong, and any championship resources I might have received will be transferred, under university rules, for the representative team's shared use." This was not empty boasting without a price. Yu Xiao entered both sides' terms into a temporary match agreement and confirmed each participant's signature individually. I did not need to take anyone's eligibility. I needed only to make the battle happen. Yu Xiao still tried to give me one final opportunity to change my decision. A team formed from different professions isn't simply the sum of its members. 3 heavy defenders establish a line. 3 ranged fighters gain time to charge their attacks, and then the assassins and warriors restrict your movement. This is already a complete martial squad. "I know. And you still intend to fight?" "I do." Yu Xiao submitted the request. Approval quickly returned from the aerial viewing area, but it included 3 conditions. All 12 representatives had to agree. Medical-grade vital monitoring had to be used, and if either side reached a protective threshold, the human referee would intervene immediately. Not one of the 12 withdrew. As they signed the agreement one by one, They also raised medical requirements. Once any participant was eliminated, the protective system would immediately establish an isolation zone around that person, preventing a fighter on the ground from being struck accidentally by later area attacks. Wu Zhan's charged arrow was registered in advance as a sustained tracking combat technique whose energy ceiling would be monitored by the referee. The temporary rules were not bending aside for my challenge. They were placing an unconventional fight inside controllable boundaries. My choice had angered them, but it had also given them a chance to defeat me together. Xiao Junjian accepted on everyone's behalf, and the 12 rapidly adjusted their positions. 3 heavy defenders stood at the front. The warriors divided between the wings. Assassins concealed themselves behind the second defensive layer, and the 3 ranged fighters spread out at the rear of the arena. Wu Zhan held his longbow between the other 2 ranged fighters. They spent less than 5 minutes communicating on-site, yet quickly decided that Xiao Junjian would issue close combat commands. Wu Zhan would control the range tempo, and Lu Guang would move the defensive line. The 3 came from different colleges, but none fought over the title of captain. Each simply took responsibility for the part he understood best. This temporary coordination was more dangerous than 12 people attempting to distinguish themselves individually. They had never trained together as a complete team, but there was nothing wrong with the basic formation. Anyone capable of becoming a college representative at Starfield Marshall University at least understood whose risk his profession was meant to bear. I took only one saber. For the moment, I could not expose too many of the A-rank techniques I had learned in the tower. Lan Qing and the others had only just concealed the abnormality in my cultivation art. If everyone discovered the very next day that I had mastered countless new techniques in 24 hours, that protection would lose its meaning. For this fight, I planned to use only the saber techniques and movement arts made public during my martial entrance exam. Yu Tsunxiao retreated to the edge of the protective zone. Final confirmation. Sugu alone against 12 college representatives. Both sides agree. He raised his hand and brought it down sharply. Begin. All 3 ranged fighters opened fire at once. The first wave of ranged fire did not seek damage. Its purpose was to seal the space I needed to draw my saber. Bullets and soul power arrows covered my shoulder, elbow, and waist. If I fully gathered momentum and released Lion Roar Myriad Tiger Saber, at least one attack would strike a vital point. The first bullet targeted my weapon hand, forcing me to alter the haft's angle. A second arrow sealed the left side. A third ranged impact struck behind me and destroyed a potential retreat route in advance. They did not spray attacks after my body. They were cutting away every position from which I could generate force completely. I interrupted the draw and first used my footwork to pass through a gap in the fire. 2 attacks brushed my uniform, leaving shallow wounds on my arm and side. 2 seconds later, Wu Zhan stopped rapid firing. At the very rear of the group, he drew his longbow. A blue-white arrow of light gradually gathered on the empty string. Layer after layer of soul power compressed into the shaft. With every pulse of brightness, the threat rose another step. The A-rank combat technique Light Convergence Arrow. The user could not move while charging it, but once formed, it locked onto its target and tracked automatically. It carried enough power to penetrate a heavy defender's shield head-on. I turned toward Wu Zhan, and all 9 close combat fighters immediately filled the rout. Heavy defenders and warriors formed pairs, using shields, axes, spears, and long swords to apply alternating pressure. The 3 assassins did not rush to attack. They formed a triangle and stabbed toward my retreat only when I prepared to break through. The remaining 2 ranged fighters changed their method. Instead of chasing my body, they predicted my landing points and forced me back into the close combat encirclement. This was the first time they had formally coordinated, yet they executed faster than expected. My saber knocked aside 2 weapons in succession. I had just turned away from a shield strike when Xiao Yunjian's dagger stabbed through the opening beneath my arm. Sun Xingjuan's spear sealed my lower body at the same moment, while Lu Guang used his heavy shield to compress my available angles of movement. The dagger opened my shoulder. The wound was not deep, but it made the muscles on my weapon side contract briefly. Sun Xingjun did not chase a killing blow. He swept the spear horizontally, trying to push me back in front of the heavy shield. I braced the saber's handle against the shaft and borrowed the force to change direction. Lu Guang's shield corner still struck my back and cut my breathing off for half a beat. This was not 12 duels added together. As long as one person forced me to make a movement, another could attack the place where that movement ended. I did not try to force my way through the formation. The 12-person coordination was not yet stable. The warriors feared obstructing the range trajectories and instinctively opened a line to either side when attacking. The heavy defenders turned slowly, while the assassins' responsibility for protecting Wu Jun prevented them from committing their full speed to pursuit. I defended while allowing their rhythm to become fixed. They adjusted to me as well. When Lu Guang realized I was using his shield to block trajectories, he stopped facing the shield directly toward my body and tilted its surface so the ranged attacks could pass overhead. Xiao Junjian deliberately withheld his attack twice in a row, waiting until I adapted to the absence of an assassin threat before entering abruptly. The dagger cut my ribs a second time, deeper than the first. If they had several weeks to train together, this battle would never have allowed me to observe their cycles so calmly. The first cycle required me to answer 7 effective attacks at once. The second dropped to 6. By the third, I could already use the face of Lu Guang's shield to block one ranged fighter and remove another layer of real pressure from my vicinity. Xiao Junjian noticed the change. Don't let him keep adapting. Old Sun and Lu Guang, pin him down with me. Everyone else, protect Wu Jun. The light convergence arrow in Wu Jun's hand was nearly complete. Blue-white radiance illuminated half the arena, and its point remained fixed between my eyebrows. Sun Xingjuan's spear advanced from the front, Lu Guang's heavy shield sealed the right side, and Xiao Junjian hid behind the spear's shadow, preparing to assassinate me. They would rather endure the light arrow alongside me than allow me to leave. Good tactics, I said. All three became more alert at once. I ran my left hand along the blade and separated Lion Roar Myriad Tiger Saber's soul power structure into 2 parts. Its killing force required the complete saber momentum, but the beast's roar could be released first. I abandoned the saber light and concentrated every bit of power into the sound. The blade vibrated violently. I sealed my hearing in advance and used bone conduction to judge my own rhythm. The 12 had made no such preparation. Even without the complete saber force, the close-range sound pressure was enough to disrupt balance and soul power control. The beast's roar erupted at close range like a colossal bell struck beside all 3 men's ears. Sun Xingjuan's spear point deviated, Lu Guang's shield sank, and Xiao Yunjian's assassination paused for less than a second. The sound wave continued past them and interfered with Wu Jun's aim in the distance. I seized that second, first striking Sun Xingjun down with the saber's handle, then taking his spear. I did not keep the weapon. I hurled it directly at Wu Jun like a javelin. Lu Guang tried to intercept it with his shield, but I kicked the shield's lower edge first. The heavy shield lifted, and the spear passed through the gap beneath his arm. Another ranged fighter tried to knock the spear point aside, but the hastily fired soul power round only made the weapon rotate half a turn in the air without substantially reducing its speed. Wu Jun saw the spear flying toward him, but did not release the fully charged bowstring. He chose an exchange. The instant light convergence arrow left the string, the spear pierced his shoulder and pinned him to the ground. The blue-white arrow passed every teammate and flew straight between my eyebrows. Wu Jun's face was deathly pale, but he clenched his teeth and shouted, "The arrow has locked on. This match is ours." Light convergence arrow was so fast that it left almost no time to think. Before its point reached my forehead, I activated flash step and moved from the spot. The blue-white light passed through my afterimage, then turned 90 degrees in midair and pursued my back again. The first turn cost it almost no energy. I deliberately moved along the edge of the arena, forcing the arrow to make a tighter turn. On the second, I passed directly in front of a heavy defender, forcing him to duck at once and interrupt his prepared shield strike. The tracking arrow recognized only me. It would not actively avoid the other participants. That transformed the 12-person formation from protect Wu Jun into avoid our own strongest attack. Wu Jun had been right. Once this arrow locked on, it would continue tracking the target until it hit or exhausted its energy. An ordinary assassin used flash step as a single-use assault technique. It compressed all available force into the legs for an extremely brief interval, and repeated use could easily tear muscles and joints. But I had corrected its force generation repeatedly under 50-fold gravity. I could also use the myriad aspect Tianyuan art to open the assassin branch only for the instant of the burst. At the end of each step, the soul power immediately returned to the main loop instead of continuously compressing my legs. The arrow approached a second time. I disappeared again. 3 times, 5 times, 10. After the 6th flash step, the muscles in my right leg had already tightened. By the 9th, the corrections gained through breathing could still keep pace with the experience, but my body could not recover from nothing. If I continued exploding across the same distance, my leg would tear before the arrow ran out of energy. I began shortening each movement, allowing only the arrow's straight-line angle to disappear before impact. The risk increased, but the expenditure decreased with it. Light convergence arrow kept turning. Its speed did not decline visibly, but every sharp turn and stretch of pursuit consumed the light forming its body. It wanted to wear me down. I was using the entire arena to grind it away. The remaining opponents did not stand by and watch. Lu Guang tried to block my next landing point with his heavy shield. Just before the arrow hit, I abruptly changed direction and forced him to protect himself first. The moment the shield blocked his vision, the flat of my saber struck the side of his neck. The first person fell. A warrior attacked from the side. I used the arrow's tracking route to force him back, then Flash stepped behind him. The saber's handle struck the hollow of his knee, taking his balance. The next blow stopped precisely within the protective threshold and removed him from the fight. Another ranged fighter tried to shoot as I landed. I did not dodge. I grabbed a heavy defender's shoulder guard and pulled him into the trajectory. The gunner stopped firing at once. The heavy defender lost his balance, and I pushed him into two warriors. For people collided, creating the first gap in the center of the team that could not be filled in time. Xiao Junjian tried to assassinate me during the brief pause every time I landed. I deliberately repeated the same rhythm 3 times. On the fourth, I turned half a beat early. His dagger struck only an afterimage, while the flat of my saber pinned his wrist. Master your instincts, I reminded him. Don't let a recording memorize your habits for someone else. Before he could answer, I struck his chest and triggered elimination through the vital monitor. The arrow still pursued me. I broke the 12-person team formation into a series of local engagements. No one could determine whether my next movement was merely evading the arrow or using the landing point to attack. Their need to avoid friendly fire from light convergence arrow also prevented them from restoring the original encirclement. Elimination notifications sounded one after another across the arena. When I finally stopped using Flash Step, all 11 opponents other than Wu Jun had fallen or been ruled out. My legs were also near their limit. Blood surrounded the soles of my shoes, where repeated bursts had split the skin. There was one wound on my shoulder and another on my back, and each breath pulled at both. If light convergence arrow still possessed its original energy, I was not confident I could dodge again. The blue-white arrow pursued me from behind one final time. Its speed had clearly fallen, and its body had gone from solid-looking concentration to near transparency. I did not evade. When the arrow was 3 centimeters from my heart, its internal soul power could no longer maintain the tracking structure. Fine cracks spread from point to tail, then the entire arrow shattered into motes of light in front of me. Wu Jun leaned against the ground, the spear still through his shoulder. He looked at the vanished light convergence arrow, then at his teammates scattered across the arena. I walked up and rested the flat of my saber against the side of his neck. Do you want to continue? Wu Jun closed his eyes and released a long breath. I surrender. After saying those words, he first looked toward his teammates receiving treatment and confirmed that none had crossed the protective threshold. Only then did his body truly relax. The 12 had lost the challenge, but they had not lost their positions as college representatives. More importantly, without training together, they had completed a team tactic capable of injuring me. The win-loss record would not erase that. Yu Tsunxiao raised a hand and terminated the battle. Su Gu versus 12 college representatives. Winner, Su Gu. Medical vehicles entered the field, but the spectator areas remained silent for a long time. I turned toward the aerial hovercraft carrying Cheng Ziwen. He lowered the window and nodded at me. This victory had at least erased 12 unanswered assumptions at once. Only one person remained. Feng Yan. Only when the medics took Wu Jun and the other 11 competitors from the arena did I feel fine. Stabbing pain spread through my legs. A temporary scan showed several soft tissue tears in my soles and a mild strain in my right calf. Medical spray could seal the wounds, but it could not replace actual recovery. Yu Tsunxiao projected the report in front of me. The red areas made the consumption unmistakable. There was no such thing as no exertion at all. I asked the doctor to save the data into the vital monitoring record for the next match. Feng Yan had a right to know his opponent's condition, and the competition could not shift responsibility onto him if my injuries worsened afterward. Repeated flash steps had not torn my muscles, but they had still left a burden. Sweat ran down my jaw and fell on the flat of my saber. I flicked the blade, shaking away the water and blood together. The spectator areas finally recovered their voices. He fought 12 people alone and used only the techniques from his martial entrance exam. It genuinely hurts to watch him win. How is anyone in the same class supposed to compete for first place? Xiao Junjian raised himself halfway from a medical stretcher. His face grew even darker when he heard that. He wanted to argue, but in the end, he only lifted his chin toward me. A loss is a loss. Next time, I'll force you to use something new. First, fix the habit of dropping your shoulder before an attack, I said. His chin immediately lowered again. I walked over to Wu Zhen and personally removed the spear from his shoulder. Medical gel sealed the wound at the same time, preventing renewed bleeding. There was nothing wrong with that arrow, I said. The problem is that your team treated it as the final answer from the beginning. Once the arrow missed, no one else knew how to finish the fight. Cold sweat covered Wu Zhen's forehead from the pain, but he still recorded the observation. Throughout the 1 versus 12 fight, I had not used any of the new A-rank techniques I learned in the tower. It was not because those techniques lacked value. Quite the opposite, they were too valuable. Lan Xing, Cheng Ziwen, and General Yin had only just helped me conceal the truth about my altered cultivation art. If I now revealed the large number of combat techniques I had mastered within 24 hours, any explanation would become suspicious. I could reveal them one by one in the future, allowing the outside world to attribute my growth to talent and accumulated study. Displaying everything at once would turn a genius into an abnormal specimen. I could accept people studying recordings of my matches. I did not want to lie on anyone's laboratory table. That was not groundless paranoia. The myriad aspect Tianyuan art was only one cultivation art and could be explained as General Yin's inheritance. But if I simultaneously revealed that I could learn a large number of A-rank techniques in one day, every institution would ask whether the cause was copied memories, a time-related ability, or a method capable of mass-producing powerful martial artists. Until I possessed the strength to refuse every request for voluntary research, controlling my exposure was itself a survival skill. After reviewing my vital monitoring, Yu Tsunxiao returned and asked, "Under the rules, you may replenish energy, receive treatment, and rest for at least half an hour. Tell us what you need." I had expended stamina, but my soul power remained abundant. The only matters requiring attention were shallow wounds and the load on my legs. The medical spray took less than 1 minute, and the experience provided through breathing was already allowing the force generation details of Flash Step to continue correcting themselves. No rest. Yu Tsunxiao frowned. Your next opponent is Feng Yin. I know. All 12 people from the last fight can hear you. That statement will offend them and Feng Yin at the same time. The last match was only a warm-up. I rotated my ankle. My current condition is enough. Several people on the stretchers looked at me in unison. Xiao Yunjian's expression, which had only just begun to ease, darkened again. I was not deliberately provoking them. It was their first time fighting as a team, and the coordination was far from mature. Like Convergence Arrow had forced me to expend more effort than their encirclement had. More importantly, half an hour of rest would make only the surface injuries look better. It could not completely heal torn tissue. Delaying would instead allow Feng Yin to raise his condition to its peak while he waited, and give the university boardroom to claim that Su Gu dared to fight only after fully recovering. By choosing to fight now, I also accepted that the leg injury might become an opening in the final. If Feng Yin could not accept even that fact, he would never have come this far. Yu Tsunxiao submitted my decision. A moment later, new match information appeared above the arena. Freshman Tournament Final. Su Gu versus Feng Yin. The system simultaneously disclosed my pre-match condition, completed a 1 versus 12 engagement, received basic treatment to stop bleeding, voluntarily waived a full rest period. It did not display private medical details, but it was enough to inform everyone that the finalists were not beginning in equal condition. That did not diminish Feng Yin's victory or defeat. The rules permitted me to rest. I was the one who refused. A disadvantage caused by my own decision was also part of judging my ability. Feng Yin rose from the waiting area and placed one hand on the short saber at his waist and the other on his dagger. People around him shouted encouragement. He did not answer them. He merely looked across the damaged arena at me, the battle intent in his eyes even stronger than inside the tower. I had erased 12 unanswered assumptions with my own hands. Only this final battle would determine whether Undisputed could truly stand. Feng Yin entered the arena and stopped 65 feet away. Compared with the man who had pressed himself under 20-fold gravity inside the tower and would rather crawl than withdraw, he had returned to perfect condition. His short saber and dagger had both been replaced with formal competition weapons. Their handles and guards fitted his palms tightly, clearly custom-made for him. The short saber was suited to carrying sustained wind blades, while the serrated dagger increased the contact surface between two air currents, allowing lightning to form faster. The two weapons were not merely sharp. They were external circuits for the threefold origin art and tricolor origin wind. Destroying the weapons could weaken him, but it would not prove that I had defeated him in his complete state. I prioritized breaking the blades from my plans. Yu Xiao asked again whether I needed supplements. I shook my head. Confirm that you waive rest and energy replenishment? Confirmed. Dissatisfaction immediately sounded from the spectator areas. The 12 people I had just defeated were the first to shout Feng Yan's name. Soon, Great Clan students and students from ordinary families, people who normally disliked one another, somehow stood on the same side, wanting only to see him pull me down. Feng Yan was not angered by what I said. His gaze fell first on my right leg. The medical spray concealed the blood, but an extremely slight asymmetry remained in my stride. You didn't come out of that without exertion, he said. Of course not. You called it a warm-up to provoke me? I was telling you that the exertion wasn't enough to make me cancel the final. If you take it as a provocation, you can answer with your blades. Feng Yan smiled, and the last trace of polite restraint disappeared. He glanced at the saber in my hand, then at the hem of my clothing, which had not yet completely dried, and said seriously, if Brother Su needs to rest, I can wait. No need. If you want to win, begin now. Yu Xiao retreated beyond the safety line and activated the arena's protective field. The final begins. I did not rush to attack. Feng Yan did not draw his weapons either. The sound outside the arena gradually faded. He released the weapons, joined all 10 fingers in a triangle before his chest, then bowed to me. Brother Su, please instruct me. I recognized the salute. The previously continuous cheering stopped abruptly. Every martial artist had performed a teacher's salute. No one could mistake it for an ordinary pre-match greeting. Yu Xiao even raised a hand to confirm that the match clock was still running. Clearly, he had not expected Feng Yan to do this in an official final. It was the salute students offered an instructor at the beginning and end of a martial lesson. This salute would also preserve today's relationship permanently in the public recording. Regardless of the outcome, if someone later asked Feng Yan why he had changed his combat instincts, he had effectively admitted before everyone that the answer came from me. By placing a commoner his own age in the position of instructor, the young heir of the Feng family accepted far more than the spectator's surprise. When we first met in the training room, he had regarded me only as another specially admitted student worth challenging. Inside the tower, I had endured 50-fold gravity, and I had pointed out how he allowed combat instinct to control his conscious judgment. Now, before the entire university, he acknowledged that reminder as a lesson. Feng Yan, I said, this is a competition. That's precisely why I must offer the salute I owe before we fight. He straightened, not a trace of joking in his voice. I will remember what you taught me. But today, I will still use everything I have to defeat you. His salute was not a concession, nor was he placing himself on a lower level. A true teacher's salute acknowledged one act of instruction. It did not revoke a student's right to surpass the teacher. Feng Yan wanted to prove through victory that he had transformed what he learned inside the tower into his own ability. I tightened my grip on the saber. Good. Feng Yan placed his hands on the weapons again. The teacher's salute had not weakened his edge. It had made his objective purer. What he respected was not my identity, nor the outcome of one match. It was the martial artist standing temporarily ahead of him. That respect did not require me to hold back deliberately. On the contrary, only by letting him see the true distance between us could I be worthy of the salute he had offered in public. Feng Yan drew the short saber and dagger. Cyan air currents wound around the short saber first, making its edge release a long, thin hum. Around the serrated dagger, two opposing streams of wind rubbed against each other at high speed. Yellow arcs leaped between the teeth, their piercing sound like 100 birds crying at once. An A-rank ability, tricolor origin wind. The first two forces, wind and lightning, had appeared together. Brother Su, here I come. The other blood black gold beneath his feet abruptly caved in. Cyan and yellow drew into one straight line across my vision, crossing 65 feet in an instant. Feng Yan did not probe. His first step was the A-rank combat technique Wind Thunder Flash. Wind pushed his speed to its limit, while lightning burst outward along the dagger, forcing any frontal block to endure cutting and paralysis simultaneously. I raised my saber horizontally and caught both short weapons. The instant the metal collided, electricity surged down the blade, and into my arm. My skin went numb at once. The wind blade slid forward along the saber's spine and cut open my sleeve. If I continued struggling in place, the next accumulation of electricity would affect my grip. I loosened 3 fingers, controlling the handle with only my thumb and forefinger so the current could not form a complete circuit through tensed muscles. That created a tiny deflection in the saber. Feng Yin seized it immediately and drove the short saber toward the side of my neck. I rammed his wrist with my shoulder, separating us for the first time. That single contact told him I was unwilling to absorb the paralysis directly. It also confirmed for me that the lightning had to accumulate through repeated contact. One collision was not enough to lock my entire arm. "Brother Su, I want to beat you." Feng Yin made no attempt to conceal the desire. Wind and lightning surged. Energy blades extended from both weapons. He crossed his arms, and a cyan-yellow X-shaped slash closed less than an inch from the side of my neck. I activated Flash Step and withdrew. The slash missed, but tore open half the other blood-black gold arena. Cracks spread from Feng Yan's feet to the edge, with metal plates collapsing layer by layer as though detonated. Within the dust, the 2 short weapons in his hands had transformed into one cyan and one yellow long saber. Wind Thunder dual blade style. The wind blade was fast and responsible for continuously cutting open defenses. The lightning blade was heavier. Upon contact, the electrical current traveled through weapons and muscles to disrupt movement. The 2 blades possessed opposite attributes and rhythms, yet the threefold origin art kept them centered on the same core. Feng Yin attacked again. He changed his landing point with the A-rank God-startling step. I activated 3 consecutive flash steps and still could not escape. Cyan and yellow blade light pursued me from the ground into the air. Every time we clashed, we borrowed the other's force to change direction. Neither of us could fly, yet the battlefield rose 30 feet above the ground. A lightning blade grazed my waist, and the paralysis slowed my landing by half a beat. The wind blade immediately pursued from overhead. The strain in my right leg from the 1 versus 12 battle flared at the same time. I did not force it to push off the ground. I caught the wind blade with my saber instead and allowed the impact to send me back down. My landing looked more awkward, but it preserved the leg's ability to burst one more time. I drew a circle with the saber. There was no specific technique. I merely let soul power circulate along the most stable main loop of the myriad aspect Tianyuan art. The blade, arm, shoulders, back, and footwork connected into a closed hole. Every incoming force followed the curve and emptied into the next point. The wind blade was drawn aside. The lightning blade remained outside the circle. Feng Yin refused to retreat. His offensive resembled a storm being compressed without end, every strike faster than the last. Lightning passed through our weapons, and my palm began to lose its warmth. Wind blades also crossed the curve several times and left tears in my clothing. The defense appeared complete from the outside, but the pressure within it continued accumulating. The handle vibrated endlessly against my palm, splitting the web between my thumb and forefinger. Every lightning strike sent a small amount of force through the circular field and made the muscles in my chest and abdomen contract. Anyone watching only whether a weapon touched my body might believe I was unharmed. In reality, the defense merely broke one fatal attack into dozens of minor injuries I could endure. I could have ended the battle faster with A-rank techniques from the tower, but there was no need. Feng Yin was advancing with everything he had. I also needed to learn how long I could receive this storm using only my publicly known techniques and the structure of the myriad aspect Tianyuan art. Mentors at the arena's edge began injecting soul power into the damaged metal plates, preventing the battlefield from collapsing completely. The protective barrier brightened again and again, stopping fragments from reaching the stands. Feng Yan's breathing grew heavier, but the dual blades did not slow. The wind blade's range began shortening, and the lightning's continuous thunder changed to alternating long and short intervals. This was not merely a decline in stamina. The loads on the 2 branches of the threefold origin art were becoming imbalanced. Feng Yin clearly knew it as well. He deliberately made the lightning blade absorb one additional collision, then used the wind to carry the excess impact away from his body and barely maintained the dual blades in sync. For the first time, a gap appeared in the circle I had formed. The wind blade cut away a lock of hair, and the lightning blade immediately drove through the opening toward my heart. I did not repair the defense. Instead, I deliberately widened the gap another half-inch. Feng Yin saw the opportunity and pressed both blades inside. It was also the first time his movement could no longer change midway. The instant the lightning blade entered the circle, I turned sideways to let its point pass and brought my saber down from above. Feng Yin could block with only the wind blade in one hand. When the two blades collided, his arm immediately sank and his knees bent under the force. He had no choice but to withdraw the lightning blade from its attacking position and brace both weapons beneath my saber. Only the combined strength of both blades kept my edge from touching his neck. Feng Yin did not rely solely on his arms to endure it. Using God-startling step, he shifted one toe back and to the side, trying to guide the downward pressure into the ground. But the difference in pure strength was too great. His saw still ground 2 scorched tracks across the metal. I pressed forward another half-inch. The metal beneath him continued to sink, and a muffled groan escaped his clenched teeth. Wind and lightning could enhance speed and killing force, but they could not carry him across the difference in pure strength between us. Feng Yin suddenly angled both blades and slid aside using my force, then rapidly withdrew. If I followed with flash step, the next strike would end the match. I did not pursue. Come, continue. After steadying himself, he stared at me, chest heaving violently. You deliberately opened your defense? Your eyes found the gap, and your body lunged into it at once, I said. That wasn't judgment. It was habit. His problem inside the tower had not disappeared. When an exchange went smoothly, combat instinct helped him seize a fleeting opportunity. But when an opponent deliberately created an opportunity, that instinct became a rope pulling him forward. Feng Yin fell silent for a moment, then raised both blades again. He attacked, and I defended in the second round as well. This time, I did not deliberately open the circular field. Feng Yin tried changing his rhythm. The wind blade feinted repeatedly, while the lightning blade remained behind and did not strike. He believed he had escaped my manipulation, yet on the 7th variation, he committed all his power to my left side again. My saber suddenly extended from the curve. A line of blood split from his shoulder to his chest. My blade stopped 3 inches from his carotid artery. I stopped again. Come, continue. In the third round, Feng Yin divided God-startling step into several brief movements and tried to enter from behind. I turned in advance. The saber's handle struck his ribs and forced a mouthful of blood from him. After landing, he did not immediately charge again. For the first time, he actively analyzed what had happened. Was my second short step too straight? No. Every time you prepare to attack from behind, you lower your left shoulder first. Feng Yin touched his left shoulder and changed his next opening to a feint from the right. That detail did not immediately let him cross my defense, but it slowed my prediction by half a beat. The instruction had begun to produce visible results. In the fourth round, he used the lightning blade to induce paralysis, then feinted with the wind blade. I allowed the current into my arm and switched my weapon hand before the muscles truly stiffened, leaving a second wound along his side. In the fifth, he finally resisted the gap I deliberately exposed, but his hesitation made him miss the real attack window. In the sixth, he began using sound and his gaze to create feints. The lightning blade produced a piercing cry first, but his body followed the wind blade. In the seventh, he deliberately repeated the third landing point and stopped his step at the last instant as I turned in advance. This time, his dagger opened my ribs. The wound was not deep, but it was his first hit produced through deliberate deception since the teaching match began. That's it, I said. Feng Yin did not lose focus because of the approval. He followed immediately with another strike. I drove him back with one slash. Don't throw away correct instincts along with the ones you're trying to resist. His eyes were already bloodshot. He understood that this was no longer an ordinary final. Each time, I remained only half a step ahead. I let him see his mistake, pay the price for it, and then return the next opportunity. If the distance was too great, he could feel only despair. If it was too small, he might attribute the result to luck. The true difficulty of a teaching match was not reducing power. It was providing understandable feedback every time. Where the wound landed, how far my blade stopped from him, and when I abandoned the pursuit, all had to point to the step he had just performed incorrectly. If I merely knocked him down repeatedly without letting him understand why, that was not instruction. It was torture. This half-step was close enough for him to chase. The discussion outside the arena grew louder. Some thought Feng Yin was still keeping me under pressure. Others had recognized who truly decided when every exchange ended. Feng Yin looked at no one. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and wind and lightning wound around the dual blades again. Again. This time he said it first. His voice had grown hoarse, but his eyes were clearer than at the beginning of the battle. In the earlier rounds, he had wanted only to use his strongest power to break the circle. Now, at last, He had begun treating each failure as information he could dissect. I raised the saber. Good. I did not count how many rounds the battle continued, but I dismantled Feng Yan's methods of attack layer by layer. After his lightning blade hit, he instinctively pursued from the right. During repeated changes of direction with God-startling step, he habitually placed his third landing point in his opponent's blind spot. When the wind blade was obstructed, he committed his entire center of gravity to the lightning blade in exchange for one forced breakthrough. The first time each habit appeared, I only defended. The second time, I wounded him. The third, I stopped the saber before a vital point. Every stopped strike required greater precision than simply landing the blow. If I withdrew the force too early, he could not feel the failure. Too late, and the wind blade, lightning, and my saber force would push the injury beyond the medical protective threshold. My breathing continuously advanced control-related techniques, but could not erase the risk of this moment. I had to watch his heart rate, pupils, and muscular responses, prepared at all times to end the match before his potential appeared. Several deep wounds already crossed Feng Yan's side, shoulder, and thigh. He tightened his muscles around them to stop the bleeding by force, while the wind and lightning around his blades grew increasingly faint. During one close exchange, he abandoned his defense and allowed my saber to cut his side, while both of his blades slashed toward my face. He had finally learned to initiate an exchange from a disadvantageous position instead of blindly attacking according to instinct. I released my saber, seized one of his wrists with each hand, and pulled them apart. The blade stopped beside my ears as my short power punch landed against his chest. Feng Yan flew backward and rolled several times across the ground. My saber landed in the distance as well. I walked over and picked it up. Somehow, he braced his hands on his knees and stood again. Someone in the spectator area shouted, "Feng Yan, keep going. You can defeat Su Gu." The voices soon joined into one continuous roar. Great Clan students and commoners stopped arguing and all cheered for him. Even if their only reason was resentment at watching me knock him down again and again, it was enough to place the previously divided spectators temporarily on the same side. Feng Yan heard them, but looked only at me. He could no longer maintain the Wind Thunder dual blade style. His weapons had contracted back into a short saber and dagger. His breathing was chaotic. 3 wounds remained closed only through muscular tension, and his left leg visibly lost balance whenever it landed. The medical readings approached the protective line several times, only for his newly generated soul power to pull them back. Yu Tsunxiao asked quietly, "Should I end it?" He hasn't surrendered. If this continues, he might suffer lasting injuries. If we stop now, every wound he has taken so far will leave him with nothing but pain. Yu Tsunxiao looked toward Feng Yan. At that exact moment, Feng Yan braced the tip of his short saber against the ground and raised his head again. "Don't stop." His voice was hoarse. "I can still fight." Only after entering that clear response into the official match record did the referee retreat to the safety line. Feng Yan did not want an attractive second-place finish. He had endured a 20-fold gravity cuff inside the tower until he could no longer rise and had never asked me to save him. Pulling him away before his limit was not protection. It was deciding for him what was worth doing. Of course, I had no right to gamble with his life either. Every time my saber fell, I avoided truly irreversible locations. My breathing continuously advanced healing and assessment techniques, allowing me to judge his physical condition more accurately. Feng Yan charged again. Without the support of his ability, he could only use assassin combat techniques to enter close range. Our blades crossed for fewer than 3 exchanges before my foot struck his abdomen and kicked him back to his starting point. He fell and rose. Fell again, then rose again. The spectators' cheering changed from furious to hoarse. Even the 12 representatives I had defeated alone stood in the medical area, staring at him. The voices did not suddenly make Feng Yan stronger, but they preserved a thread of clarity for him. Whenever his body wanted to stop, he raised his head again amid the sound of his own name and made each movement with a little less instinct and a little more choice than the last. I did not explain the battle for the spectators. An explanation would divide his attention and turn a breakthrough that had not yet appeared into a performance he was required to complete. The final time Feng Yan raised his hand, his body lost support and fell flat on his back. The short saber and dagger slipped from his palms. He did not rise again. Yu Tsunxiao stepped forward, but I raised one hand and signaled him to wait. Feng Yan's vital signs were not continuing to weaken. On the contrary, a power that had never appeared before was rising from inside his body. Wind and lightning first wound around his wounds, the two forces rubbing together at high speed. A cluster of orange-red flames silently ignited over his chest. The flame did not burn Feng Yan. It spread outward along the wound on his chest. Every pulse of orange-red fire drew the exposed flesh together another fraction. The deep wounds in his shoulder and side stopped bleeding one after another. Even his depleted life force began to rise again. Beyond wind and lightning, the third force of tricolor origin wind had finally appeared. Fire. And it possessed the power to heal. Feng Yin had broken through only after losing consciousness completely. The new force had never passed through his active control and repaired his body solely through the instinct of his ability. Within several breaths, the three colors of wind, lightning, and fire spread from the wounds and formed ancient patterns across his skin. The public vital monitoring first jumped from the red line back into the safe zone, then displayed an even more dangerous abnormality. His heart rate, soul power, and muscular output had fallen out of sync. The faster his body recovered, the weaker the fluctuations of his consciousness became. This was no normal breakthrough in battle. The power had taken control of his body. He stood again, but there was no focus in his eyes. Feng Yan, I called. He did not answer. I called Feng Yan, again using the form of address we had agreed on inside the tower, then deliberately lowered my saber. If his consciousness remained, he would at least make a judgment about such an obvious opening. The body before me did not hesitate. It charged mechanically the instant its power reached the peak. The final confirmation was complete. I was not facing an opponent capable of listening to advice. First, I had to make his cultivation art stop. The short saber and dagger flew back into his palms by themselves, and three forces wound around the weapons. The flames had repaired his body without bringing back his consciousness. His face was utterly emotionless, as though only one overwhelming thought remained to drive the body. Defeat me. Members of the Feng family rushed to the arena's edge and asked the referee to terminate the match immediately. Yu Xiao did not decide unilaterally. He looked toward me and Cheng Ziwen above. I can handle it, I said. Yu Xiao did not immediately allow the fight to continue. You just fought 12 people. Your leg and ribs are injured. If he loses control and attacks the spectators, I will terminate the match before you can act. Agreed. The same applies if your vital readings cross the line. Agreed. The human referee's responsibility was not to believe that I could perform a miracle. It was to preserve the power to stop the fight by force for both competitors and every spectator. Feng Yin did not attack the audience or the referee. From the moment he stood, his gaze remained locked on me. That meant the loss of control had not spread. At least his target remained singular. But the longer this continued, the greater the chance that his body would memorize this unconscious mode of circulation. When that happened, even if the flames repaired the injuries, his mind could be consumed in reverse by the ability. Cheng Ziwen walked to the outside of the protective line and confirmed Feng Yan's physical monitoring with the Feng family's team leader. After a brief exchange, they stopped trying to enter. They required only that the university intervene forcibly the instant the vital line became abnormal. The protective barrier rose to its highest level. I picked up my saber again. The flames repaired flesh. They could not conjure back expended consciousness and combat experience. Feng Yin was stronger than before, but also simpler. He no longer hesitated, feared, or felt fatigue. At the same time, he had lost the ability to deceive, probe, or alter his movements according to the moment. Three forces circulated across the surface of his body. Wind handled movement, lightning handled destruction, and fire handled restoration. They had truly merged for the first time. The power of the threefold origin art increased with each circuit of the patterns across his skin. I did not attack immediately. The dozens of exchanges earlier had not only allowed me to instruct him, they had allowed me to record every route exposed when the cultivation art generated force. While conscious, Feng Yin actively adjusted his soul power routes to conceal his weaknesses. After losing consciousness, his body selected only the most direct and efficient circulation, making every critical node clearer instead. The wind moved a piece of rubble beneath our feet and rolled it between us. The wind stopped. So did the stone. All three colors of the patterns on Feng Yan's skin lit at once. Wind lifted the dust first. Lightning formed a fine web inside it, while flames covered both weapons. Before the three forces even attacked, the temperature and air pressure around us had already changed simultaneously. I shifted my right leg slightly backward so the injured muscle would not bear the first impact. I held the saber across my chest. Its point was not aimed at him, but at the first cultivation node that might light. My weapon hand sank. In the next instant, both of us vanished from where we stood. There was no blade light in the first collision, only an exploding wave of air. Feng Yan's wind blade passed over my saber and tore a strip of flesh from my shoulder. I forced the lightning blade aside with my saber's spine, but the electricity still bored through the metal and into my chest. Flames followed immediately behind the two energy blades and burned my arm. The power of all three colors combined had indeed exceeded the limit he possessed while conscious. If he could still alter his moves actively, this attack would have left more than several wounds. But he had no consciousness. Every force traveled along the shortest route. I had observed the basic circulation of the threefold origin art inside the tower and personally forced out dozens of its variations during the teaching match. Now the three-colored patterns on his skin were effectively drawing the flow of his soul power directly in front of me. Feng Yin charged again. I no longer drew the circle or competed with his speed. The first touch of my blade landed below his right shoulder and diverted the wind branch. The second strike of the saber's spine hit his side and interrupted the transmission of lightning to his arm. During the third crossing, I pressed two fingers against the origin of the fire pattern on his chest and halted the recovery of the wound that had just healed. Each seal lasted for less than one breath. Feng Yan's soul power immediately detoured through another branch, and the three-colored patterns changed with it. I could not memorize fixed positions. I had to correct the next strike continuously according to the energy brightness on his skin and the movement of his body. Right shoulder, left ribs, chest, lower back. Each time a temporary route was severed, a new one emerged elsewhere. This only proved that the threefold origin art had been customized by the Feng family and possessed far greater resilience than an ordinary cultivation art. He showed no response to pain. His attacks continued. I sealed the nodes exposed by the threefold origin art one by one. None of the locations was fatal, and losing any single one would not stop the art. But when the wind, lightning, and fire branches all became obstructed, the origin core could only increase its output again and again in an attempt to break through the seals. That was exactly the result I wanted. Feng Yan's ability could heal injuries, but it could not manufacture limitless soul power. I let every attack land somewhere I could endure, then used the myriad aspect Tianyuan art to shift my body's center of gravity in time. My shoulder, arm, and side were burned one after another, but my feet never retreated from the core area. One lightning blade grazed my temple and instantly blacked out half my vision. I judged Feng Yan's next step through the vibrations beneath my feet and swept my saber along the ground into his ankle, buying enough time for my eye to open again. Another time, a fire blade descended head-on. I could not evade completely and had to receive it on the outside of my left arm. Real burning pain, a sensation the virtual fight had never left, immediately bored into the bone. My fingers could not close for several seconds. The unconscious Feng Yin would not hesitate or slow down merely because I was injured. After 10 collisions, the fire patterns dimmed first. Every act of healing consumed the energy generated when wind and lightning merged. As I repeatedly severed those two branches, the flames received less and less replenishment. At last, the wounds began forming faster than they could recover. I did not take the opportunity to attack his body. I continued pressuring the soul power nodes. Every additional saber wound now would merely add another price to his rehabilitation after he awakened. Several breaths later, the lightning blade began cutting in and out. In the end, only wind remained to propel his body. Feng Yin compressed every trace of remaining power into one final charge. The three-colored patterns relit across his skin, and the air wave hurled every piece of rubble on the arena into the air at once. I advanced to meet him. My saber touched every node I had already identified in succession. Finally, the weapon's spine struck the origin core at his chest. Feng Yan's body shuddered, and all three energy blades collapsed simultaneously. After the impact to the origin core, his remaining internal forces began surging backward. If they were allowed to collide in his meridians, they could leave permanent damage even if the flames repaired his flesh. I did not let him fall. My left hand seized his shoulder, and I forcibly guided him through one final circuit that released the forces. The remaining wind, lightning, and fire were directed above the arena, where they exploded into a mass of three-colored radiance inside the protective barrier. When the light faded, he remained standing, supported by nothing but physical instinct. The patterns on his skin faded little by little, and the emptiness in his eyes finally loosened. Only after confirming that his vital readings had returned to the safe zone did I release him. Feng Yin fell forward and was caught by the Feng family members rushing toward us. After examining his soul power and consciousness, The team leader's expression changed from wary to complicated. He walked up and performed a teacher's salute on behalf of the still unconscious Feng Yin. The young heir's consciousness remains. He simply cannot take control of his body for the time being. None of the three branches is severed, and the origin core has been preserved. He first made the examination results clear, then continued the salute. If Feng Yin had suffered an irreversible problem, even the most solemn gratitude would have meant nothing. Thank you for your assistance, young Master Sugu. From today onward, you are an honored guest of the Feng family. Within the limits of our ability, the Feng family is willing to perform one service for you. I did not treat the polite promise as a favor I could draw from without limit. I merely nodded and accepted it. The medics carried Feng Yin from the arena. Yu Tzu and Xiao looked at the vital monitoring and then at the competition grounds, which had been nearly reduced to ruins. Only after a long moment did he remember to announce the result. Champion of the freshman tournament, Su Gu. Scattered applause sounded first, then joined into a continuous wave. The first to clap were the 12 representatives I had defeated. Their rhythm was uneven, and several of them looked anything but happy, but they acknowledged the final result. Only afterward did the other college formations and spectator areas begin to join them. This first place had not been established through a lucky draw, rumors, or a university declaration. Someone in the spectator area muttered, "We have to spend the next 4 years in the same class as someone like that. How is anyone else supposed to make a name for himself?" Demon King. A second person shouted, "Su Gu, the Demon King." The name spread quickly. I stood at the center of the arena and listened as that inexplicable nickname became more rhythmic. All I could do was return my saber to its sheath. I had wanted an undisputed first place. Judging from their reaction, I might have gone slightly too far. After leaving the arena, I first received complete medical treatment. Feng Yan's final 3-colored attack had left several burns, and the lightning had temporarily numbed my right arm. The medical pod repaired the surface injuries in only 10 minutes, but my soul power and muscular fatigue had to recover naturally. The doctor explicitly prohibited another high-intensity battle within 24 hours. I signed the restriction into the treatment record before checking the tournament results and university notifications. My freshman championship had already entered my file. The complete recordings of the 1 vs 12 match and my final against Feng Yin were also locked. Any future review could trace the original monitoring data. I lay inside the pod without allowing my breathing to stop for even a moment. This battle had made the myriad aspect Tianyuan art endure sustained attacks from 3 attributes for the first time. With every breath, the experience pushed me to reorganize the problems exposed in battle. Switching the assassin branch too quickly created a brief pause in the main loop. When the circular defense met lightning conduction, simply redirecting force could not isolate paralysis. Sealing multiple nodes could interrupt the threefold origin art, but only after sufficient observation. Those gains were more valuable than first place itself. When my treatment ended, Chung Zuan sent me a notification bearing the university board's electronic seal. Decision on reconsideration of Su Gu's application to re-enter the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower. Following a new vote by the university board, the prior rejection is rescinded. In view of the applicant's comprehensive performance during the freshman tournament, the university is authorized to arrange access under the champion's reward and disciplinary plan. The words disciplinary plan showed that the matter had not been turned entirely into an honor. Zheng Lu's violations did not mean every choice I made was beyond review. The university would still punish me for failing to stop in time, but it had combined the location of the punishment with my training request. I accepted the result. It did not package me as an innocent victim, nor did it allow the board to use punishment to close off the resource completely. 5 electronic signatures appeared beneath the notice, belonging to the same people who had rejected the application yesterday. This was not a verbal promise from Chung Ziwen or something to be honored in the future. It was a reconsideration decision already in effect. I downloaded the document locally and verified the seal number once more. Yesterday, there had been absolutely no room for reconsideration. Today, it had become an exception may be made for a prodigy. I forwarded the notice to Feng Yin. He did not reply immediately. Before the awards assembly, I found him at the front of the freshman formation. The Feng family's treatment had healed most of his external injuries, but he still sat in a wheelchair, and the wind, lightning, and fire in his body were completely silent. "Brother Su, congratulations." He turned his phone screen toward me, showing the reconsideration notice I had sent. "No one can obstruct your tower access now. Your final condition was promising," I said. "Once you can control all 3 forces, we'll train again. Feng Yan's smile instantly froze. The family member pushing his wheelchair instinctively retreated half a step as well. Spare me. He pressed down on an arm that was still trembling. You forced that breakthrough out of me. My body didn't adapt at all. The doctor says I can't use my ability for at least a month. If we fight again, I might genuinely cripple myself. A month. At least. I could only abandon the idea of immediately testing tricolor origin wind. Feng Yin then asked, during that final exchange, how did you know the nodes in the threefold origin art? You circulated it dozens of times in front of me. While you were conscious, you changed the routes. After losing control, only the most efficient one remained. You could memorize it just by watching? Why else did you think I spent so long instructing you? But you've never practiced my cultivation art. I don't need the complete mnemonic. When soul power passes through a node, the muscles, skin temperature, and weapon feedback all change. While conscious, you deliberately concealed them. After losing control, you used every shortest route in front of me. Feng Yin looked down at the patterns that had faded from his chest. In other words, next time we fight, I first have to learn how to deceive your observations. Correct. Otherwise, no matter how strong the three forces become, you're only repeating the same answer. He fell silent for several seconds, then moved his wheelchair farther to the side. Brother Sue, I'm suddenly beginning to think 1 month won't be enough. All the freshmen formed their ranks again. The 12 college representatives stood at the front. Wu Zhen's shoulder had been bandaged, while Xiao Junjian deliberately turned his gaze away when he saw me. Several hovercraft landed behind the ceremonial platform. The board members, Cheng Ziwen, Lan Qing, General Yin, and the mentors from each college arrived in sequence. Some students quietly straightened their backs, hoping a mentor would notice them. Others began calculating how many cultivation resources 2,000 or 20,000 credits could purchase. Cheng Ziwen stood at the center and looked at me first. We will now recognize the students who performed exceptionally in this year's freshman tournament. Cheng Ziwen first read out 50 names. These students had performed exceptionally in their college's internal selections, and each received 2,000 credits. Once the list ended, a mentor immediately invited Sikong Jinzhong from the Warrior College to study under him. The 2,000 credits would enter each student's university account directly. They could not be withdrawn as cash or transferred privately, only used to purchase courses, training time, and university-certified resources. For an ordinary freshman, that was enough to cover most training expenses during the first phase after enrollment. Sikong Jinzhong froze for half a beat, then practically shouted his acceptance. The mentor told him to review the formal development agreement after the awards ceremony instead of binding their relationship on the spot through a single yes. A student and mentor selection could change the course of 4 years. An emotional acceptance was understandable. Signing still required calm judgment. The other students looked expectantly toward the mentor section, but no second name came. The 2,000 credits had entered their accounts, but becoming a formal disciple still depended on a mentor's judgment of their future potential. The second group consisted of the 12 college representatives. When they entered the stage to receive their certificates, bandages from the team battle remained on their bodies. The university did not erase their results from the college selection because they had lost the 1 versus 12 match, nor did it withdraw their insight pills at the last minute. The rewards recognized complete tournament performance, not only the person left standing at the end. Xiao Junjian, Wu Zhen, Lu Guang, and the others each received 20,000 credits and 1 insight pill. Once the rewards were announced, the mentor section became noticeably more active. Some students received 1 or 2 invitations, while others discovered that the mentor's research directions did not fit their professions. An insight pill did not directly increase combat strength. For a limited period, it improved the efficiency of understanding and sensing combat techniques. The best use was to prepare one specific bottleneck in advance, then focus on breaking through it while the pill remained active. Anyone who simply swallowed it and waited for inspiration would waste most of its value. Wu Zhen immediately confirmed the storage period with the mentor distributing them. Clearly, he was already considering using it to address the energy loss when light convergence arrow turned. Acceptance did not automatically mean the choice was correct. Refusal did not automatically mean someone was above worldly concerns. Invitations issued at the ceremony did not take effect immediately. Selected students received a 3-day review period during which they could investigate a mentor's past research, former students' destinations, and disciplinary record. Mentors could also withdraw their terms before signing. The enthusiastic ceremony was only a first meeting. It was not an auction of 4-year relationships. For a martial artist who had just enrolled, a mentor could provide resources and direction. Choosing the wrong path could likewise consume 4 years correcting the deviation. Wu Zhan politely declined the first mentor and chose to learn more about the second person's ranged combat system. Xiao Junjian did not immediately accept anyone. He asked to discuss the matter after the ceremony. When Feng Yan's turn arrived, Cheng Ziwen announced his rewards one by one. 20,000 credits, 10 insight pills, 1 opportunity to have a weapon custom made by the university's engineering department. The numbers caused a visible stir among the first 2 groups of students. Feng Yan had only placed second, yet his rewards far surpassed those of the ordinary college representatives. No one truly questioned it. Without me, an equally immense gap would have existed between him and every other freshman. The moment the rewards were read, mentors began speaking one after another. Mentors from the Assassin College, the Warrior College, and even those specializing in ability development offered terms. Some promised a share of resources, some were willing to let him participate directly in upper-year training, and others emphasized how their research directions complemented those of the Feng family. Every invitation generated written terms through the university system at the same time. A verbal promise to direct every resource toward you sounded moving, but the actual contract had to state courses, the frequency of instruction, and resource limits. Feng Yan was not driven by the emotion of the scene. He added each set of terms to his pending review list. Throughout the announcements, however, his gaze passed over them several times and settled on Lan Qing. Lan Qing did not speak. "Thank you, mentors," Feng Yan said at last. "But for my 4 years at the university, I do not currently intend to become any mentor's disciple." The mentor section fell silent. Some were dissatisfied. Others quickly withdrew the emotion from their faces. The choice belonged to both sides. Feng Yan possessed the Feng family's complete inheritance, so refusing a university mentor would not cut off his cultivation path. After his refusal, everyone's attention naturally turned to me. Those who had just been comparing Feng Yan's rewards no longer whispered. My specific honors had not yet been announced, but the difference demonstrated in the 1 versus 12 battle and the final told everyone that the scale of what came next could not be lower than second place. Before Cheng Ziwen even read the rewards, several mentors had already stepped forward. Feng Yan turned his head and laughed quietly. "Brother Su, the way they're looking at you is much more heated than the way they looked at me. I can see that. Want me to lend you the wheelchair? It'll make escaping easier in a minute. Keep it for yourself." The words had barely left my mouth when the first mentor leaned past Cheng Ziwen and shouted directly at me. "Su Gu, come with me." The mentor's voice was loud enough to overpower the amplification system. "As long as you're willing to become my disciple, every resource I possess is yours. Anything I can't provide now, I'll fight to obtain for you. You can even take the benefits first and decide afterward whether you recognize me as your mentor." Those words lit a fuse. Someone promised to maintain and upgrade my weapons for free. Someone else offered connections with off-campus organizations. One mentor grew so anxious that he began addressing me as a brother. When inviting Feng Yan, they had at least preserved the dignity of teachers. When it came to me, both their terms and voices lost control. I did not answer immediately. From the martial entrance exam until now, Lan Qing had provided substantial help several times without formally accepting me as a disciple. Cheng Ziwen and General Yin had likewise taken on risks to conceal the myriad aspect Tianyuan art from me. A mentor relationship was never merely a way to receive resources. It also bound both sides' responsibilities and positions together. Until I understood what each person could teach me and what each hoped to receive from me, I would not decide based on one generous promise. Nor did I turn toward Lan Qing and ask him to state a position on the spot. He had already helped me assess the cultivation art's risks and conceal its secret. I should not use that assistance as leverage to pressure him into taking me as a disciple. Cheng Ziwen had to shout "quiet" several times before the mentor section settled down. "Mentorship discussions will wait until after the awards are complete." He looked at me. "Before announcing the champion's rewards, we will first declare Su Gu's disciplinary action." The formations became silent at once. During the Warrior College selection, Su Gu failed to control the damage in time, resulting in Zheng Lu's death. Although the investigation has confirmed that Zheng Lu illegally consumed a blood-burning, soul-rending pill and used a neural paralytic on his knuckle guards, the university has still decided to place Su Gu in confinement for 7 days. Cheng Ziwen did not use the words accidental killing. Zheng Lu's death had resulted from a banned drug, a toxin, the arena rules, and my continuous attacks together. Any single label would erase part of the truth. The disciplinary record would also enter my student file. It would not be deleted merely because the location of confinement was unusual. I watched him without responding. Chung Ziwen deliberately paused before announcing the location. Because Sugu applied to re-enter the 1,000-floor Marshall Tower and the university board has rescinded its rejection, the 7 days of confinement will be served inside the tower. During that period, he may not leave without authorization and must reflect seriously on his actions. A wave of sharp inhalations passed through the formations. During my first entry, I had received only 24 hours. This so-called punishment would allow me to train continuously inside for 7 days. If the university always imposed confinement this way, students might line up to apply for permission to break rules. Sugu, do you object? I accept the university's disciplinary decision. Chung Ziwen coughed lightly twice, suppressing the discussion around us. The punishment has been announced. We will now present the freshman martial champions rewards. First, 50,000 credits. Second, 1 private weapon commission from the university engineering department. 2 unclaimed certificates appeared on my university terminal. The credits would enter my account after the disciplinary process was complete. The weapon commission included a material sealing, 3 rounds of design revisions, and 1 fit and tuning session for the finished product. It was not a vague promise to give me a weapon, but a concrete resource that could actually be delivered. Both rewards were highly practical. 50,000 credits could be exchanged for training resources. A custom weapon could solve the problem of my current blades being unable to bear my combat techniques completely. But they were still only resources. They would not change the core method by which I grew stronger through breathing. Chung Ziwen continued. In addition, the university will grant Su-Gu time-limited access to selected cultivation arts from its restricted collection. The available catalog and precise time limits will be announced separately. The reaction around me was quieter than when everyone heard about the 50,000 credits. For freshmen who had just entered the self-seeking realm, their primary cultivation arts were still not fully understood. Examining other paths could easily disrupt their circulation. Most people would regard this access as an impressive-sounding bonus that was difficult to use in practice. For me, it was entirely different. What the myriad aspect Tianyuan art needed was precisely the principles by which different cultivation arts established their main loops and allocated professional branches. Reading an art did not mean learning it directly and could not complete missing contents, but it could show me which routes others had already taken and which dangers had caused earlier practitioners to fail. Access to cultivation arts. When I heard that, my eyebrows rose slightly.